A group of cars stops at a weird location, and when a boss asks the driver about it, he says he needs to see something. It turns out, there is a young boy standing in front of their car and yelling at them to get out of his village, because the bad people like them can't set one foot in their village. Hearing that, the mafia boss gets out of his car along with his security and asks the young boy if he get hit in the head wrong last time. The boy then gets furious and says that he is the one who is hiding in the back doing nothing. The mafia boss wonders if he really thinks that knowledge is more powerful than physical strength, because if that was true, he wouldn't have been controlling these many guys. He then tells one of his guys named Director Kong to kill the young boy. Seeing that, the young boy wonders if he could really win against the opponent he lost to just a week ago. Director Kong then charges forward at the young boy to punch him straight in the head. The young boy then recalls a time when a guy used to teach him fighting, telling him that the left hand is always the lead hand and it is used for various purposes like feints and measuring distance. He also mentioned that a strong jab can achieve a KO, but it's not easy. Back in present, the young boy performs the exact same moves that the guy taught him in the past, and surprisingly, his punch hits Director Kong. The young boy once again recalls that the guy told him that the Director Kong seems to be a higher weight class than him, so that means he will come at him like a bulldozer, angry and swinging wildly. He also says that especially if he's a right-handed person who doesn't know boxing, he will get all worked up and come swinging his right hand wildly. The guy tells young boy to come at him, and he will show how it's done. Once he comes at him, the boy dodges his punch and tries to hit his liver, and if he does that, the opponent won't breathe and his whole body stiffens up. The guy also tells the young boy to practice the 1-2 move about 1,000 times, and then, he should try left ducking and liver shot connection another 1,000 times. Back in present, the young boy manages to hit Director Kong in the liver with a direct hit, and then he continues to throw punches at him until he completely knocks down on the ground. The young boy then gets worried that he was managed to defeat one of the guy, but now he must face many more. He then recalls the guy tells him that when guys like that travel in packs, so if he beat the strongest one, they all get scared and can't do anything. That's the rule. 1 week ago, the young boy builds a homemade gym at a village. It is said that when he was very young, his parents died in an accident, so he came to live in this village where his grandmother lived. The young boy was showered with the village people's love. The people of the village all come together and make the collective decision to cut back on their own budget and pull money from wherever they can just so they can send the young boy off to school and give him a real shot at something better. As time passes, the young boy grows up and begins putting in serious work at the homemade gym he built with his own hands, driven by the burning desire he has carried with him to become a boxer one day and make something of himself. Then one night, the grandmother wakes up in the middle of the night and immediately notices that the young boy is nowhere to be found in the house, and while she is trying to figure out where he went, the television that is still running in the background catches her attention as the news comes on and reports that a large public corporation is in the middle of expanding its resort business into the area as a way of boosting the local economy, and that as part of doing so they have been going around buying up and taking control of land belonging to various villages in the region. The very next day, the same mafia boss that had shown up before comes back to the village once again, this time arriving with a group of armed guards surrounding him on all sides. The man steps forward and introduces himself to everyone gathered there as Kong Hwan, the director of the Han Corporation, and makes it known plainly that their organization is interested in purchasing the land that the village sits on as part of their ongoing resort development plans. The moment those words land, one of the grandmothers of the village absolutely loses her temper and storms toward Hwan with every intention of grabbing hold of him, but before she can get close enough, one of his guards steps in and shoves her back and out of the way. Hwan then turns and strikes another grandmother with enough force to send her crashing down to the ground, and as she falls she hits the back of her head hard against one of the stones lying there on the ground. Seeing that, the young boy gets furious and punches one of the guards. Hwan then tells Director Kong to handle the situation, and when he goes to deal with it, young boy straight up punches him. The young boy then tries to punch him once again, but Director Kong straight away hits him in his liver. After that, all the guards start beating up the young boy, until the grandma steps in and begs them to leave them alone. Houn and his team then leave the village while the doctor treats the grandmother. The young boy then spends his time in the gym practicing even harder than before, and starts crying, thinking that he is weak. At that moment, a guy with a ponytail arrives in the jungle, and finds the young boy crying. Seeing that, the young boy recognizes the guy as a famous boxer he saw on the TV the other day. He remembers the guy throwing amazing hooks that connects precisely through an opening in the guard. It turns out, his name is Seojin, and with perfect fight management, he proved with skill. After the fight, the interviewer asks him what his plan for the upcoming fight is, and he says that he is thinking of training alone somewhere quiet until his next match is scheduled. Back in present, the young boy wonders why a world champion is here, and if it could be just a dream. Seo Jun says that it's not a dream, and he was just looking for a place to pitch his tent during training. Hearing that, the young boy gets surprised and wonders if there is a place to train in their village. Seo Jun explains that world-class athletes often do image training and physical conditioning in secluded places. Seo Jun then gets serious and says that he couldn't just pass by without saying something, and says that a boxer shouldn't swing his fists while being swept away by emotions like that. After that, Kang-chan explained the whole situation to Seo Jun, who also gets furious at it. Seo Jun then asks him if he could pitch his tent here today, as there is a sandbag and he could also practice a bit. Kang-chan then asks him if he could box him a little and give some tips as well, so that he could become better. But Seo Jun says that there are countless people who want posture correction from him, and since he is praised as Korea's hero, he will think about it. Getting hungry, Seo Jun asks him if he have some food, and Kang-chan gives him some rice balls that are extremely tasty. Eventually, Seo Jun decides to watch the boy train, and when Kang-chan starts throwing some ugly punches, Seo Jun says that his moves were so trash and his chin is up in a completely defenseless state, and he had some expectations since he made his own boxing gym, but it's terrible. Seo Jun explains that when he punches, his opposite hand guard is too high and he is doing a useless guard. However, Kang-chan asks him to teach him just a little more, but Seo Jun asks him if he really think a world champion has time to spare. After saying that, Seo Jun feels bad and tells Kang-chan that he is going to train from now on, so he should follow him if he can keep up. After that, both of them continue with their training that includes stamina to endurance and jump rope along with other exercises. Later, Seo Jun does some shadow boxing in the jungle, imagining his opponent in front of him. Seeing that, Kang-chan asks him if he is fighting an infighting fighter. He also saying that it looks like he was backing away because he is someone who only does outboxing. Hearing that, Seo Jun gets surprised and wonders how he guessed that so accurately. After that, they continued to do sandbag 7 rounds, like hitting each other's stomachs and other normal exercises. Seo Jun takes a moment to think it over and comes to the conclusion that Kang-chan's stamina is actually something worth working with, especially considering that he had put him through his usual training routine fully expecting that Kang-chan would burn out quickly and just give up and walk away, but instead the guy stuck with it and followed along through the whole thing without quitting. Kang-chan then speaks up and says that he knows he is nowhere near ready to call himself a fighter at this point in time, but that he is going to show up and train every single day without fail and keep building himself up until he grows into someone who is truly capable of stepping up and grabbing the next opportunity when it comes around. Listening to all of that, Seo Jun finds himself quietly thinking about the fact that this is a guy who never had a single day of proper training in his life, and yet he pushed through an entire routine that would have broken most people, and that the level of physical exhaustion Kang-chan must be feeling right now has to be at least 10 times worse than anything Seo Jun himself is feeling. And somewhere in the back of his mind he realizes that he genuinely likes this guy and what he is made of. Seo Jun then tells Kang-chan to get himself up off the ground because as long as he is here with him, he is going to take it upon himself to actually teach him how to fight properly. He also points out that since those guys are coming back in a week, he wants Kang-chan to make sure he gets everything that needs to be taken care of done and wrapped up the right way before the time comes for him to leave. 1 full week goes by and Kang-chan ends up finding himself in the middle of a physical confrontation with 2 of the guards, and right at that tense moment Seo Jun shows up out of nowhere and calmly tells Kang-chan to go ahead and hold his umbrella for him. The moment Hwan lays eyes on Seo Jun standing there, the shock is written all over his face and he immediately turns to his guards and orders them to get Seo Jun's phone away from him, having just realized that Seo Jun had been standing there the whole time recording them in the act of beating Kang-chan. Hwan turns on Seo Jun with clear anger building up and tells him straight out that he has no idea what kind of connection he has to this little countryside village or why he even cares about it, but that he is going to have to go ahead and delete that video he just recorded before this goes any further. Seo Jun shifts into a ready stance and prepares himself to take on every single one of those thugs standing in front of him, and while he is doing that he turns back to Kang-chan and tells him to keep his eyes wide open and pay close attention to everything he is about to see. Because in order to truly protect the things and the people that matter most to you in life, you have to build yourself up to carry that kind of power. The thugs then come rushing straight at Seo Jun all at once, and he goes to work on them and manages to put a good number of them down, and what makes it even more remarkable is that when you actually look closely at what he is doing, he is barely even making significant contact with most of them and yet they are all ending up flat on the ground anyway. Kang-chan stands there watching with his mouth open because the same guys that he himself could barely hold his own against for even a moment are getting completely dismantled right in front of his eyes without much effort at all. One of the remaining thugs reaches down and picks up a steel baseball bat and points it at Seo Jun, telling him that no matter how good he is, at the end of the day he is still just standing there with nothing but his bare hands, and that there is simply no way he can deal with the gap in reach that comes into play the moment weapons get involved in the equation. The guy then comes charging hard directly at Seo-jun, running his mouth as he closes the distance and telling him that he is going to beat him so badly that the only thing he will be good for afterward is being the kind of embarrassing story people tell over drinks for the rest of his life. Seo-jun however shuts the whole thing down by dropping him with a single clean punch and then finishing him off entirely with a sharp liver shot that leaves the guy completely unable to breathe properly and curled up on the ground. Every single person standing around watching is left completely frozen in stunned silence, genuinely struggling to process or understand how one person could possibly do something like that. The thugs start to back off, so Seo-jun mocks them, saying the guys who all rushed in together to catch one kid are now instantly tucking their tails when a few people go down. Hwan then gets furious at his thugs and asks them why they are not doing anything because if the video spreads out then they are screwed. Seo-jun says that there is no point fighting more with guys who have no fighting spirit, and instead he nats to make a good offer. He says that he won't spread the video they just took when they would apologize to Kang-chan and quietly back down here. Hwan then freaks out, saying he won't believe in any kind of apology and he don't even know if he is telling the truth or not. Seo-jun also says that they seem to be mistaken about something as he is giving them an opportunity right now as choices only belong to the strong. At that moment, Seo-jun steps forward and punches Hwan straight in the face, saying he is just thinking about his act till the end. Seo-jun then continues to slap him in the face while Hwan wonders what's even wrong with him. After teaching him a valuable lesson that he won't forget, Seo-jun says that he hates cowards like him who instigate fights but can't do anything from behind. He once again reminds him that decisions are made by the winner and this is his last chance to get on his knees right now and apologize to him. Hwan then falls on his knees and says the word, and leaves. Kang-chan then asks him if he is alright, and he replies that he didn't even got hit, so it's of course that he is alright. He also tells Kang-chan that he needs to be in a position where he can protect his people, and he has that potential. Seo-jun then tells Kang-chan that he has a schedule now, so he has to leave Korea and before he leaves, he will introduce him to his master's gym. He also tells him that if he have to say goodbye to those elders he loves so much for a while. Later, Kang-chan informs his grandmother about that and she gets surprised to hear that, saying it's so sudden that he wants to go to Seoul. She also says that the idea of him doing boxing is bizarre itself and asks him who allowed him to do that. Kang-chan says that he beat those thugs and this is the only way he can think of to protect his people. He also says that he wants to make it so grandmother and grandfather can live comfortably. The grandma says that she never asked him to protect her and she don't want to spend even a penny of money earned by her child getting beaten up. Kang-chan then tells her that he won't be successful in anything if he doesn't do boxing. Hearing that, grandma gets emotional and thinks that this is the first time he is asking her that he wants to pursue something, even though he was a child who never once said he missed his parents in front of her. Kang-chan's grandma packs a ton of things for him and wonders how he is supposed to carry all of it. She tells him to stop complaining while still bringing out even more items and reminds him that he needs to eat well to build his body up stronger. Kang-chan jokes that he might actually die on the way to Seoul if he tries to carry that much. His grandpa then tells him that if he ever feels like giving up at any point, he can always come back home anytime he wants and nobody in the village is going to say a single word against him for it. Kang-chan replies that he has absolutely no plans to give up. His grandma then notices the man standing behind Kang-chan and asks who he is before Seo-jun can even get a word in to introduce himself. Kang-chan quickly says that Seo-jun is just a friend who offered to give him a ride to Seoul, thinking his grandma might scold Seo-jun if she finds out he is a boxer. Hearing that, his grandma decides that Seo-jun can help carry some of the bags and hands one over to him without asking. She says she feels relieved now and asks Seo-jun to take good care of Kang-chan on the way there. As they leave, Kang-chan tells his grandma she does not need to come outside and see them off, but she follows them out anyway. Seo-jun respectfully bows to her before they go. Kang-chan later notices that his grandma stands there watching them until they completely disappear from sight. After walking for a while, Kang-chan apologizes to Seo-jun and asks to take his bag back. Seo-jun says it is completely fine and that he only carried it until they reached the car anyway. Kang-chan still feels bad for making him carry it at all. Right at that moment, the village elders call out to Kang-chan and call him a rascal for trying to leave without saying goodbye to any of them. One uncle says they heard everything from his grandma. They ask if he packed enough food and even bring him a whole box of strawberries to take along. Kang-chan tells them he already has more than enough, but they insist he takes them anyway. They also bring up hearing about how he fought off gangsters and thank him for it, saying that kind of thing should have been the adults stepping up and handling it themselves. One of the grandmothers starts crying and says the village simply is not going to be fun anymore without him around. Kang-chan does his best to comfort her and promises that he is going to come back and visit often. The village chief then spots Seo-jun and seems to recognize him from somewhere. Seo-jun jokingly asks if the old man wants an autograph, but the chief completely ignores that and instead refers to him as the porter before loading even more luggage onto him. He comments that the porter looks strong and capable and tells him to take good care of Kang-chan all the way to Seoul. When they finally make it to Seoul, Seo-jun heads straight to his boxing gym. The moment he walks through the door, everyone stops training and gathers around him asking for autographs, and Seo-jun thinks to himself that this is exactly the kind of reaction he has been missing lately. Suddenly, a buff and imposing older man appears and tells everyone to stop making noise and get back to training. The coach shows up and Seo-jun greets him and says he has a favor to ask, telling the coach that he wants him to train Kang-chan and calling him a talent he personally discovered. Kang-chan introduces himself politely. The coach looks genuinely surprised, wondering out loud when Seo-jun became considerate enough to bring someone in himself. The other trainees also get curious about just how talented this new guy must be for Seo-jun to vouch for him like that. To test him out, the coach throws Kang-chan a pair of gloves and asks him to show his punches. He tells him to get into stance and prepares the mitts, but Kang-chan just stands there looking confused. The coach looks over at Seo-jun with a puzzled expression. Seo-jun laughs and explains that it is Kang-chan's first time ever seeing mitts, so he probably does not understand the signals at all. The coach calls for a 1-2, weave, and hook combination. Kang-chan manages the 1-2 well enough but then gets hit right in the face because he has no idea how to weave. The coach looks confused again, and Seo-jun awkwardly admits that Kang-chan might not even know what weaving means. Disappointed, the other trainees lose interest and walk away. The coach then decides to properly sit down and teach Kang-chan the basics of boxing defense from scratch. He explains 3 main techniques to him. The first is the duck, which involves slightly bending the knees and moving diagonally to avoid straight punches like jabs. The second is the weave, which involves moving the waist in a curved motion from side to dodge hooks. The third is the sway, which involves leaning the upper body backward to avoid incoming hits. He tells Kang-chan that these defensive moves need to eventually flow naturally alongside his attacks without him having to think about them. He instructs him to combine them with his 1-2 punches and keep practicing until it becomes second nature. Kang-chan starts training seriously and keeps repeating the movements over and over, constantly wondering whether he is doing them correctly. Later, the coach pulls Seo-jun aside and tells him that although Kang-chan seems athletic enough, he does not appear to be especially talented in any obvious way. He questions why Seo-jun brought him there, saying Kang-chan is nowhere near the level of talent that Seo-jun himself showed when he first started out. Seo-jun responds that comparing Kang-chan to him is not a fair comparison since he is a world champion. He insists that Kang-chan does have real talent, it just is not the kind that jumps out at you right away when you first look at him. Seo-jun then leaves, asking the coach to keep training Kang-chan while he is gone. The coach asks if Seo-jun is ready for his next opponent, pointing out that it is not going to be an easy fight. Seo-jun confidently replies that it is going to be a whole lot harder for his opponent since they are the ones who have to face him. He puts on his mask and walks out. 3 days later, Kang-chan is still training without stopping. The coach is genuinely surprised to see that in just 3 days, Kang-chan is already putting together decent combinations and has corrected a good number of his bad habits on his own. He asks Kang-chan what time he starts training each day. Kang-chan says he begins at 6 in the morning and the coach then asks what time he finishes. Kang-chan replies that he trains until 10 at night. The coach realizes that covers the entire span of the gym's operating hours and wonders why he never sees Kang-chan arriving or leaving at any point. Kang-chan explains that he has nowhere to stay, so he has just been sleeping in the gym using the blanket his grandma packed for him. He apologizes for not asking permission first. The coach tells him it is completely fine and asks what he does during his free time. Kang-chan says he either visualizes the techniques he learned that day or sits and thinks about his village back home. The coach reflects on how the other trainees usually spend their time trying to avoid training or just sitting around on their phones, and he laughs to himself and thinks that Seo-jun really did bring him an interesting student this time around. Finally, the coach calls another trainee over and tells him to go and get someone named Seo-yun, because he wants to set Kang-chan up in a sparring match and see what he can actually do. The coach calls one of the trainees over and tells him to go find someone named Seo-yun because he wants Kang-chan to get a sparring session in. The trainee nods and takes off to go get her. Chan pipes up and says that back where he comes from, Seo-yun sounds like a name you would give a girl, and the coach just shrugs and replies that it is pretty much the same way here too. Seo-yun walks in as the person Kang-chan is going to be sparring with, and she has a solid 8 years of boxing experience behind her. The two of them step into the ring together and she goes ahead and pops her mouthguard in. She glances over and notices Kang-chan fumbling around trying to get his gloves on and starts wondering to herself whether she should take it easy on him since this is clearly his very first time doing anything like this. The coach tells Kang-chan to go ahead and put his headgear on. Kang-chan picks it up and looks at it for a second, then looks back over at Seo-yoon, and asks out loud why she is not wearing any protective gear herself and says that he would feel bad if she ended up getting hurt out there. That comment lands the wrong way almost immediately and everyone watching can tell right away that Kang-chan just stepped in it without even realizing it. Seo-yoon fires back at him and tells him to worry about himself and stop concerning himself with what she is or is not wearing. Chan stands there genuinely confused about what exactly he said that set her off like that. The round gets started and they tap gloves, and Kang-chan can already feel the nerves kicking in since this is the first time he has ever done this. Out of nowhere Seo-yoon explodes forward and pops him clean right on the nose with a sharp punch and Kang-chan immediately realizes that she is seriously fast. She does not stop there either and follows it up by throwing a whole bunch of punches at him one after another in rapid succession. The people watching on the side are not surprised at all and say that this is pretty much what they expected from her. They point out that even though her punches might not carry a ton of power because of the weight difference between them, the speed she brings more than covers for that gap. The coach keeps his eyes locked on the two of them and thinks to himself that she is honestly the perfect person to get Kang-chan comfortable with what real sparring actually feels like. Kang-chan is having a really hard time keeping up with her because her punches are coming at him way faster than anything he has ever had to deal with before, and that is including the time he had to scrap with those gangsters. Even still, after eating a bunch of her shots he starts picking up on little gaps and small openings that keep showing up in the way she is attacking him. He spots one of those openings and takes it, ducking cleanly underneath her punch and slipping right into her blind spot in a way that she does not see coming at all. It is a completely free shot just sitting right there waiting for him. But instead of taking it, Kang-chan just casually walks right past her and turns back around to face her again. Everyone watching is completely thrown off by that. Kang-chan just says out loud that he dodged it like that was the whole point. The coach immediately raises his voice and asks him why in the world he did not hit her when he had the chance sitting right there in front of him. He breaks it down for Kang-chan and tells him that the moment he gets completely out of his opponent's line of sight like that is exactly the moment he is supposed to attack, and that boxing is not just about getting out of the way of punches. Kang-chan apologizes and admits that he just forgot to follow through in the moment. Seo-yoon on the other hand is genuinely stunned standing there because she cannot wrap her head around how someone who has never done this before just read her punch that cleanly and moved the way he did. The round wraps up and the coach decides they are going to run one more. Kang-chan admits out loud that he is way more tired than he thought he was going to be. The coach explains to him that the reason for that is because all those punches he took messed up his breathing rhythm, and that is exactly why learning when to throw counters matters so much. He also reminds Kang-chan that getting out of the way is not the only tool he has available to him when it comes to not getting hit. The next round kicks off and Seo-yoon comes right back at him just as hard and aggressive as before. This time around though Kang-chan is doing a much better job of getting out of the way of most of what she is throwing at him, and he can feel himself starting to settle in and get more comfortable with how fast she is moving. Even so a few shots still find their way through, so he pushes himself to start moving his feet faster to make up for it. Seo-yoon starts noticing that something about this guy is off compared to what she normally sees from someone brand new to sparring. Usually after just one round a complete beginner would be running on empty and barely able to keep their hands up, but Kang-chan is not showing any of that. Going back to where he grew up, there were no cars or vehicles of any kind in his village, and as one of the only young people around he spent pretty much every single day running back and forth helping out the older people who lived there. On top of that he had been going up into the mountains to train every single day without skipping once for close to 2 years straight, so the level of stamina he is carrying around with him is on a completely different level from what most people his age would have. Kang-chan finally throws his first real punch and Seo-yoon just barely manages to get out of the way of it in time. He is already starting to figure out how to mix in some offense while still keeping his defense together at the same time. She comes right back at him with a counter, but Kang-chan gets out of the way of her 1-2 combination and takes a step back to create some space. As she starts moving toward him again something suddenly clicks in his head and he thinks back to what he learned from Seo-yoon, and in that moment he finally gets what the coach was talking about earlier when he said that dodging is not the only way to keep yourself safe out there. Right after that, Kang-chan steps forward and goes to throw a punch at her, and Seo-yoon finds herself genuinely caught off guard as she realizes in that moment that his jab completely threw off her timing and broke apart the rhythm she had been working with. Kang-chan then moves right past her in what feels like a single instant and brings his punch all the way up toward her face with real speed and intention behind it, but at the very last second he pulls it back and stops just short of actually making contact. He then looks at her and thanks her for the sparring session, which catches pretty much everyone standing around watching completely off guard because nobody was expecting that reaction out of him. The coach steps in and tells both of them that they did solid work out there today and then turns his attention specifically to Kang-chan and explains that right now the way he moves on defense and the way he attacks are two completely separate things happening. He also says that as he keeps developing and growing, the goal is to get those two things to blend together and flow into each other naturally like water, so that they are happening at the same time. He then turns toward Seo-yoon and tells her directly that even though Kang-chan was clearly a step below her level going into this, she still should have stayed disciplined and stuck to the outboxing style that she is actually really good at, because the moment you start throwing punches driven by emotion rather than by thinking, those punches become easy to read and easy to see coming from a mile away. Before wrapping things up and sending them off, the coach tells the two of them to make sure they go back and look over their notes and then get 5 full rounds of shadow boxing done before they are finished for the day. The people hanging around the gym start talking among themselves about Seo-yoon, and a few of them bring up the fact that she was not getting touched even once during the whole thing, and the general feeling going around is that as far as she is concerned it was a clean and complete victory on her end. However, Seo-yoon realized that she had completely lost the flow of the fight to someone who was a total beginner, which left her with no idea what had even been going on during their whole exchange. She also figured out that Kang-chan's last punch had clearly been timed and pulled back on purpose, which meant that he had never actually planned on hitting her from the very start of their fight. After that whole situation, Kang-chan kept pushing himself through round after round of training and sparring at the gym, and during that same time the gym's top rising star, Sangwoo, had already gone ahead and made his debut as a professional boxer. By training day after day alongside Sangwoo and the rest of the guys at the gym, Kang-chan got better at a really fast rate and his skills grew by a whole lot over that period of time. A full year went by, and Kang-chan finally hit 18 years old, which was the age where he was old enough to debut as a professional boxer himself. Kang-chan showed up at the place where the professional boxing license test was being held, and it turned out that the person he was going up against for the test was Chang-soo. Once the two of them were both inside the ring, Chang-soo looked out and noticed Lee Do-jin, who was the president of the biggest agency in the whole country, sitting there and watching the both of them. He then notices Seo-jun's former coach, next to him and thinks that this situation seems like they set up the stage for him. Right at that moment, Kang-chan stepped into the ring and Chang-soo looked him over and immediately thought that he seemed clumsy and weak just by the way he carried himself. The match kicked off with Chang-soo rushing straight at Kang-chan and launching a punch directly at him, but before that punch could get anywhere near landing, Kang-chan smoothly slipped out of the way and fired right back at him with a clean and well-placed uppercut that caught him off guard. Chang-soo's mind went completely blank and he could not work out at all where that punch had come from or how it had happened so fast, but he pushed himself to shake it off and drag his focus back to where it needed to be since deep down he knew that this was a once-in-a-lifetime kind of opportunity that he simply could not let slip away from him. After that exchange, Kang-chan came at him again with another punch and then just kept on coming without giving him even a moment to breathe or reset, throwing punch after punch in a relentless and non-stop way that kept Chang-soo from ever getting a chance to recover, and he kept right on hitting him over and over again until Chang-soo's legs had completely run out of strength and could barely manage to keep him standing upright on his own. Chang-soo finally snapped back to his senses and looked around at where he was standing, and it hit him that he had already been pushed all the way back into a corner without even realizing it. Right at that point, Kang-chan started unloading on him like an absolute monster and threw everything he had at him, and with that final burst Kang-chan took the win and the match was over. Chang-soo thanks the referee and drops down to his knees completely exhausted, thinking to himself that maybe fighting is just not really meant for him after all. Kang-chan reaches out and offers him a hand and asks if he is doing alright, telling him that it had been a really good match while helping Chang-soo back up. Chang-soo takes his hand and tells him that it was a great match for him as well. The very next day, when the coach arrives to open up the gym, Kang-chan is already inside and busy cleaning the floor before anyone else has even shown up. The coach points out that the gym has been noticeably cleaner ever since Kang-chan joined and tells him to tidy things up and then take it easy for a little while inside. He thinks to himself that his student is just way too kind for his own good. Chang-soo then asks the coach who the person is that came in with him, and the coach turns around surprised to find someone standing right behind him and asks who she is. She introduces herself and tells them that she is Minji from the Champ Agency, and both of them look at her with confused expressions on their faces. Minji explains that she came to request a meeting with boxer Kang-chan inside the office, and the coach asks her why she showed up so early in the morning. She tells them that she came early specifically so that she would not be intruding during training hours and figured that opening time would be the best time to stop by. The coach tells her that there really was no need to come all the way out there that early, and Minji adds that she was also worried about the possibility of another agency coming in and scooping him up before she had the chance to talk to him. She mentions that the CEO had told her directly to make absolutely sure she brought Chang-soo back no matter what it took. She then accidentally bumps her hand into a cup sitting on the table and knocks it over, spilling water all over the surface. She immediately starts apologizing with tears forming in her eyes, but Kang-chan quickly goes ahead and cleans the table up and tells her not to worry about it and then asks whether she is from the same agency as Seo-jun. Minji confirms that he is correct and explains that their agency represents a wide range of athletes including Seo-jun. She mentions that there have been rumors going around that Kang-chan is Seo-jun's mentee, but Kang-chan tells her that he has no idea what a mentee even is and makes it clear that Seo-jun is simply his master. Minji then explains that if Kang-chan joins their agency, they would be able to draw a lot of attention for him through promotions and marketing, and that they would also be in a much stronger position when it comes to negotiating fight money with the organizers. The coach tells her that he already understands all of that but asks her about the debut specifically, wanting to know if they already have an opponent in mind. Minji quickly reaches into her bag and says that the opponent's name is In-young, but then her face falls as she realizes that the tablet with all the data on it is missing while she keeps going through her bag over and over again looking for it. The coach tells her not to worry about it and says that he already knows that name, pointing out that In-young is a pretty solid and capable fighter before asking what the reasoning is behind matching Kang-chan up against someone that's successful right from his very first debut fight. Minji explains that boxer In-young has a 3-0 record with all three of those wins being completely dominant performances but tells them that with Kang-chan's level of ability it should absolutely be something he can handle. She then says that there is actually another reason for wanting Kang-chan to face someone with a real standing and reputation and asks if they remember the fight that took place 6 months ago between Seo-jun and Damon Carter. The coach remembers it clearly as the fight that took place after the last time he personally saw Seo-jun. Damon had come in with a 15-0 record in professional boxing and had been widely talked about as the person who was finally going to knock Seo-jun off his throne, but he ends up losing without managing to leave even a single mark on Seo-jun, who hands the rising star his very first professional loss. Minji explains that Damon was not able to accept that defeat and put forward a request for a rematch, and that the match is set to take place in Korea with the camp's agency planning to open the whole big event with Kang-chan's debut match at the front of the card. She says that the plan is to market Kang-chan as Seo-jun's disciple in order to pull in a really large audience and that if he goes out there and beats In-young there really could not be a better debut story to build off of. All that Kang-chan really takes away from everything she says is that this means he would potentially get to be on the same card and watch his master fight in person. The coach says that those are genuinely good terms and then asks Kang-chan what he thinks about the whole thing. Kang-chan says that he really wants to take this fight more than anything because it means he would finally get to see his master compete right there in front of him. The coach then turns back to Minji and tells her that it is not a problem for them and that they are in. Minji thanks them both and tells them she will come back the following day with footage of the opponent for them to study. She then trips and falls on her way out before she can even make it through the door. Kang-chan looks at the coach and asks whether it is really going to be okay to put their trust in someone that clumsy. The coach tells him that even if he cannot fully trust the girl herself, he can absolutely trust the company behind her, pointing out that it is Seo-jun's agency and that means they are not going to end up getting stuck with a bad deal. He tells Kang-chan not to worry about any of that and to get outside and start running to make weight for the upcoming fight. Meanwhile, over at a completely different gym across town, a coach is telling a boxer to keep his legs moving and stay active. The boxer suddenly bends over and throws up from sheer exhaustion. The coach asks out loud how a future champion can fold and fall apart from just this much of workout and tells him that his stamina is simply far too weak for where he needs to be. He then tells the boxer to go take a breather by the river and come back soon. The boxer nods and heads out. Down by the river, he sits down on the grass and starts feeding a stray cat he finds there, asking it out loud whether the treat tastes good. He says that it must be really nice to just be a cat sitting there all day taking whatever people decide to give it without a care in the world. While staring at the cat, he quietly says that all he really wants is to just rest easy for once. He then pulls his hand back and lets out a long and heavy sigh, saying out loud that he just wants someone to go ahead and beat him already so that he can finally have a reason to stop and rest. Kang-chan runs past the other boxer while thinking to himself that he absolutely cannot afford to drag his master's name through the mud and that he has to win this match no matter what it takes. His opponent has first-round knockouts across all 3 of his fights. The coach explains that all counter-punching is created by reading and avoiding the opponent's attacks, and that the strategy of using dynamic vision works in a similar way to finding the right moment and taking the chance. The coach tells Kang-chan that they are going to make him look like an infighter at first to set things up. Kang-chan then asks how he is supposed to pause the video they are watching, and the coach asks out loud how a young person can possibly be worse with a smartphone than an old man like himself. Kang-chan admits that he had simply never used one before. After the coach pauses the video for him, Kang-chan asks whether there is not something a little strange about his opponent. The coach asks what he means by that. Kang-chan says that In-young, even in moments where he clearly has the upper hand, does not look like he is enjoying the fight even a little bit. Kang-chan then says that In-young looks like someone who actually wants to lose. The coach stares at the video for a moment and then says that there is no way a person like that actually exists and tells Kang-chan to stop saying useless things and put his full focus on his own training instead. The day of the weigh-in arrives soon after. While walking toward the stage, the coach tells Kang-chan that fighting is all about momentum and tells him to walk with confidence and carry himself like he belongs there. He steps up onto the scale and hits 61.23, coming in under the weight limit and clearing it without any issues. The photographers tell him to strike a pose and he simply throws up a peace sign without making a big deal out of it. He and his opponent then stand face to face for the photos, and Kang-chan looks over at In-young and tells him sincerely that he hopes they have a nice and fair fight. In-young looks back at him and asks whether any of this is actually fun for Kang-chan. He says while looking at him that he genuinely envies the fact that Kang-chan can smile like that, because he himself has never once thought of any of this as fun. Kang-chan stands there wondering what that is even supposed to mean. The coach notices In-young's coach standing nearby and gets the feeling that he looks familiar to him somehow. After the weigh-in wraps up, several articles about Kang-chan start coming out and the news even make its way all the way back to his village through the newspaper. 1 week later, fight day finally arrives. The crowd is packed in and buzzing with anticipation over Seojin's rematch against Damon. Kang-chan looks around and thinks that this is the largest number of people he has ever seen gathered together in one single place, since back in his village the gathering hall never even had 10 people in it when everyone showed up at once. His name gets called out and he makes his walk out to the ring. He turns back and thanks Seo-yoon for being in his corner as his second. Seo-yoon tells him that he is supposed to say he is going to win at a moment like this, and adds that she will kill him herself if he ends up losing. Kang-chan nods and looks over at his coach who is holding the ropes open for him to step through. The coach tells him that he just needs to go out there and do exactly what they practiced together. Kang-chan steps into the ring and finds that his opponent is already standing inside waiting for him. He politely greets In-young once again in the same friendly way as before. Even the people sitting in the crowd get confused and a little thrown off seeing a fighter come in smiling and acting so cheerful right before a fight is about to start. Kang-chan thinks to himself that he is definitely nervous inside, but notices that his opponent still looks like he is in a really bad mood just like before. The referee asks if both of them are ready and then tells them to go back to their corners before starting the fight. They touch gloves and the match gets underway. Both start feeling each other out carefully with their lead hands and keep that up for a little while before Kang-chan decides to take his chance, closing the distance by slipping past the lead hand and following it up with a right hook. In-young twists away quickly and calls it predictable, saying that Kang-chan is just like every single person he has faced before. He throws a punch at Kang-chan's face, but to his complete surprise Kang-chan does not get hit by it at all and simply looks away and slips the punch clean while In-young is distracted for just a brief second. Kang-chan then bounces off to the side and drives straight in to land the very first clean hit of the entire fight, connecting it right on In-young's face exactly the way he had practiced it over and over again. Before the match, the coach sits Kang-chan down and tells him about the fighter he is going to be facing, explaining that the guy is extremely skilled and then asking Kang-chan what he thinks his one weakness might be. Kang-chan takes a little bit of time to think it over, but the coach jumps in pretty quickly and tells him that the answer is arrogance. The coach explains that this guy has most likely never come across anyone who has a similar level of skill to his own, so he goes into the fight expecting to wrap things up quickly and easily without much trouble. The coach goes on to explain that the guy tends to come at his opponents using the same kind of flow and rhythm that all the people he has beaten before have used, which basically tricks them into falling into the exact same patterns and making the exact same moves that got those other guys knocked out. The coach wraps it up by telling Kang-chan that they are going to wait for that opening and go straight for it when it shows up. Back in the present, Kang-chan manages to land a solid series of jabs and punches on the guy that completely rattles him and throws him way off balance. The guy gets totally taken aback by it and starts breathing really heavily, and it is becoming pretty clear that he is losing his strength at a rapid pace. The guy's coach shouts at him from the corner and tells him to check with his jabs and focus on catching his breath first. After hearing that, the opponent gets really nervous and starts throwing all kinds of jabs and punches in every direction he can think of, but Kang-chan manages to smoothly dodge every single one of them without getting hit. However, one of the punches ends up slightly grazing his cheek, which makes Kang-chan get mad and realize in his head that his opponent's lead hand checking is way too fast to just ignore. Kang-chan then pulls both of his arms in closer to his face and charges straight forward toward his opponent, who looks pretty surprised to see him coming at him like that. The opponent tries once again to catch Kang-chan with a straight jab, but Kang-chan immediately fakes him out with a feint and uses it to slip right past the punch and keep moving forward. The opponent quickly throws both of his hands up to form a defensive block right over his face to protect himself. However, Kang-chan does not go for the face at all, and instead drives his punch straight into the opponent's lungs without any hesitation. It turns out that Kang-chan has immediately taken advantage of the fact that the opponent raises his guard up high and uses that opening to go after the body instead. Kang-chan then keeps right on throwing body shot after body shot one after another without stopping, which leaves the opponent unable to figure out what is coming next. Before the fight, the coach has also told Kang-chan that if things turn into a more tactical and careful kind of fight, then the opponent will do everything he can to create distance between them by using quick and shifty footwork to stay away. The coach has asked Kang-chan what their plan is going to be in that kind of situation, and Kang-chan answers that they will shut down and block his footwork, which turns out to be exactly the right answer. The coach then says that the most efficient way to slow down the opponent's feet is body shots. The coach explains that when the body stiffens and breathing becomes difficult, the legs stiffen first. So, he tells Kang-chan to focus his attention on body shots and occasionally throw jabs to the face too, and only then the flow becomes theirs. The coach also explains that many people say that boxers dodge punches because of good dynamic vision, but he thinks that it is half right and half wrong as they dodge punches through prediction. The coach goes on to explain that their minds have already been trained to automatically calculate exactly how a punch is going to come in after throwing it thousands and tens of thousands of times over and over again, and that if all of that attention gets shifted toward the body instead, then no matter how sharp and fast someone's reaction vision is, there is simply no way they are going to be able to dodge it in time. Back in the present, Kang-chan winds up and tries his absolute best to throw one more powerful punch, but the referee steps in between them and stops the action right there, calling out that round one is officially over. Everyone watching feels like it has been an incredible round to witness, since fighter In-young has never once gone past the first round in any of his previous fights, but fighter Kang-chan has not only managed to survive through the entire first round, he is actually coming out ahead when it comes to controlling the pace and flow of the whole fight. In-young's coach gets really mad at him in the corner and lays into him for being so careless out there, telling him that he should have been using parrying to deflect all of those body shots instead of just taking them. However, In-young does not say a single word back to his coach because he is already completely and totally drained of energy. The coach keeps going and tells him that even if a punch is coming straight at his face, he needs to react by swaying out of the way to create some distance and then wait patiently for a clear and sure opportunity to hit back. The coach then reminds him that this is the biggest and most important opportunity he has gotten in a very long time, so he absolutely has to win this fight no matter what it is going to take. A flashback reveals In-young's backstory. When he was around 5th grade in elementary school, middle school kids were bullying a cat with no legs. Before he could control himself, he beat them up for doing something disgusting like that. The bullies then had to admit in the hospital, and In-young's father bowed his head and apologized to that kid's mother. In-young thought that his father would be angry at him as how could he hit a person like that, but turns out he was smiling like a maniac. In-young's father was a boxer, a fighter who failed to reach his dream and gave up. He was top class in Korea, but his fists didn't work in the world. Even after making a name in Korea, it wasn't easy for a boxer to make a living. In-young's father had given up on his dream, but this kid he thought was quiet had beaten up guys 3 years older than him. In-young's father discovered a talent in his son that he didn't have, and gave In-young a harsh training every day, so that he could become a world-class champion. Eventually, In-young's father began to dream once again, and once he decided to lose a match on purpose, but that didn't go so well. In-young's father got so furious that he beat him up like a maniac. Back in present, the match starts off with Kang-chan throwing a punch at In-young, and deep down, In-young wants Kang-chan to beat him up so bad that he would end this tedious thing. In-young notices that Kang-chan is actually smiling and enjoying fighting for some reason, so he wonders what's so enjoyable about all this. He then asks Kang-chan straight away what's so enjoyable about it, saying that being controlled like this isn't enjoyable at all. However, Kang-chan replies that this prison must be a prison to In-young, but to him, this ring is a stage where he pours out everything he has. Kang-chan then tells In-young that it's time to prove himself, so he should pour out everything and fight against him who's in front of him, or against whatever's binding him. Hearing that, In-young gets surprised as if he just realized something. In-young's father then yells at him, asking what he is doing instead of reaching out. Kang-chan then throws a punch ahead, saying he prepared for this match by watching his videos, but he couldn't feel any fun in his expression. He thinks that In-young is doing movements as if he was told to do so and explains that boxing like a strong person crushing the weak. Kang-chan also adds that he kept facing fighter version of In-young and through this current match, he realized that this isn't the real him. Hearing all of that, In-young sat there and wondered to himself whether he really actually hated boxing deep down, but he then came to the conclusion that the real problem was his father, who had tied him down and forced a certain method and way of doing things onto him for so long. He thought to himself that the kind of boxing he actually enjoyed and loved was the kind where someone stands up against someone stronger than them and keeps pushing forward no matter what. In-young then looked over at Kang-chan and told him straight up that he recognized him as a genuinely strong opponent and that because of that, this fight was going to be a whole lot more fun and enjoyable from that point on. Right after saying all of that, In-young pushed off and launched himself straight at Kang-chan and threw a really hard and powerful punch directly at him, but Kang-chan managed to slip out of the way in time and immediately sent one right back at In-young's face without wasting even a second. Surprisingly enough though, In-young actually got his guard up fast enough to block that punch before it could land with any real damage. In-young's father, who was watching from the corner, then absolutely lost it and started freaking out completely, yelling out loud and demanding to know why his son had suddenly decided to switch over to close-range fighting all of a sudden like that. In-young completely ignored all of that and just kept pushing forward and going after Kang-chan in this really strange and hard-to-read style that did not follow any kind of pattern that was easy to figure out, which eventually got Kang-chan's coach so worried that he started shouting from the corner and telling Kang-chan to get himself over to the side of the ring. However, the second that Kang-chan made his move and shifted over to the side, In-young was somehow already right there waiting for him and immediately came at him with another punch before Kang-chan could even get settled. Now that Kang-chan had ended up with his back against the corner of the ring, getting out of that spot was going to be a really serious and difficult problem for him to deal with. After that, In-young started throwing punch after punch at Kang-chan, who found himself completely unable to do anything about it, and on top of that, Kang-chan could no longer find any easy way to escape from the center of the ring. In-young then threw yet another punch at Kang-chan, who barely managed to dodge it by the skin of his teeth, and right after that In-young followed it up immediately with another uppercut that landed clean and hard directly on Kang-chan. In-young kept right on attacking him like he had completely lost his mind and was not going to stop for anything, and it was becoming more and more difficult with every passing second for Kang-chan to find any kind of quick way out of the corner he was stuck in. The coach then called out to Kang-chan from the corner and told him not to let himself panic just because his opponent had suddenly switched things up and started fighting in close range out of nowhere. The coach also told him to sit back and think about every single sparring session he had ever gone through and to think it over carefully and clearly, reminding him that he had gone up against infighters who were a full 2 weight classes above him and had gotten through those sessions just fine. Hearing those words from his coach, Kang-chan managed to snap back to his senses and his mind immediately went to all of those countless sparring sessions he had put in with Songwo over that long stretch of time. He thought back to how during all of those sessions, Songwo's punches had not only been incredibly heavy in terms of the sheer weight behind each one of them, but they had also packed a really shocking and surprising amount of raw power that had caught Kang-chan completely off guard every single time without fail. While sparring with Songwo during that period, Kang-chan kept finding himself getting pushed back all the way into the corner without even realizing it was happening, just like what was going on right now in this fight. Songwo had told him back then that if he was just going to stand there and keep his guard up without doing anything else, it was not going to get him anywhere at all. Songwo kept right on attacking him during that sparring session and told him that he needed to be throwing punches of his own in order to create openings for himself, and that he should never try to escape from a corner all in one single rushed movement. He also drilled it into Kang-chan that the only real way to find his space and get out of a bad position was to do it through attacking rather than just trying to run or back away from it. Back in the present, Kang-chan caught sight of an opening and did not waste even a single second before diving straight in and launching his attack at In-young with complete and total confidence. Kang-chan then pulled off a really well-timed offbeat feint that caught In-young off guard just enough to successfully push him back, and when In-young tried to gather himself and come right back at him with a counter-attack of his own, Kang-chan was already one step ahead and smoothly slipped right past him and cleared himself out of the way before anything could land. Right at that exact moment, a wide smile broke out across Kangchan's face, and it was pretty clear to anyone watching that he felt like the momentum had fully shifted over to his side and that it was now completely his turn to take over and control how things were going to go from that point forward. Kangchan then wound up and threw a punch straight in In-young's direction, but In-young had enough left in him to read where it was going and managed to get out of the way without too much of a problem, and he immediately used that moment to fire back at Kangchan with a sharp and fast uppercut of his own that came at him from a really dangerous angle. The coach then tells Kangchan for a setup, which is a method of inducing the opponent to anticipate with basic patterns shown through previous exchanges, then striking unexpectedly with a variation. Kangchan thought to himself about what he had been carefully building up throughout this fight, which was a situation where the opponent had absolutely no choice but to keep his attention and worry focused on protecting his body at all times. Kangchan then fired a straight body shot directly at In-young that landed clean and hard right on his ribs. Kangchan did not stop there at all and immediately moved again to follow it up with yet another body shot that landed on the other side of his ribs just as hard as the first one. However, In-young was not going to just stand there and take it, so he pushed forward and came at Kangchan aggressively, making it clear through his actions that he was not going to allow Kangchan to create any kind of distance between them at all. He then launched another side punch straight at Kangchan, who managed to slip out of the way and dodge that shot as well. In-young thought to himself that Kangchan kept trying to get away and create space with his jabs, but then he suddenly broke right through that pattern and came forward instead. Kangchan thought to himself that now that he had gotten In-young so worried and focused on the constant stream of jabs coming at him, he was going to make his real move at a moment that the opponent would never see coming. In-young then charged straight at him and almost managed to catch his front foot, but he quickly noticed that Kangchan had actually slipped in at an offbeat rhythm while making it look like he was backing away the whole time. After that, In-young attempted to throw a jab at Kangchan, but Kangchan simply blocked it cleanly and immediately came right back and landed a solid punch directly on In-young's face. Kangchan continues to attack him with various punches on his face that gets him on his knees. The arena buzzes with excitement over the thrilling knockdown, and the countdown begins. Within the first 5 seconds, Kangchan stands up, despite being all shaky and shivering. At that moment, In-young makes up his mind that just this once he didn't want to lose, and then In-young ends up falling on the ground. The commentator pointed out that even In-young's incredibly strong fighting spirit had ultimately bowed down before Kangchan, which was quite a surprising and remarkable thing to witness. Kangchan then let out a loud shout and threw himself into celebrating his victory with everything he had, because in his very first debut fight he had gone out there and claimed his first ever victory by knockout. The crowd then erupted and started cheering really loudly for Kangchan, but rather than just soaking it all in, Kangchan turned and bowed respectfully in front of In-young and told him sincerely that it had been a real honor having fighter In-young as the opponent for his debut match. Kangchan then reached out and carefully helped In-young step down from the ring safely, which was a really wonderful and touching moment to watch from where the audience was sitting. In-young then looked at Kangchan and thanked him genuinely for everything he had said to him during the match while they were fighting. He also told him that he was really grateful that Kangchan was even going out of his way to help him down right now on top of everything else. After In-young got off the stage, his father came over and reached out to touch his shoulder in an attempt to console him, but In-young just shoved his hand away without even looking at him. In-young told his father directly that he was not going to spend the rest of his life living according to his wishes and what he wanted anymore, so his father did not need to stand there and pretend like he was actually worried about him. However, In-young's father brushed all of that off and told him that he had done an absolutely amazing job out there during the match and that he had no idea until now that his son had such a natural talent for close-range infighting. Hearing those words come out of his father's mouth, In-young felt something really painful stir up deep inside him and his face twisted into an expression that looked like he could completely break down and cry at any given moment. On the other hand, Kangchan thanks his coach and says that he was able to win thanks to him. The coach starts acting all cool and says that it's obvious, and he just did what he had to do as a second. Kangchan also thanks Seo-yoon for being his second Oswell. Just then, Kangchan's grandparents from the village also arrive to congratulate him on winning the match. Kangchan gets all surprised to see them and starts smiling, but the grandmother tells him that he has become a man now. Furthermore, Kangchan asks another grandpa about grandmother who didn't come, so the grandpa says that she had something urgent come up, so she couldn't make it today. Kangchan starts laughing and says that no one wants to watch their grandson get hit. Furthermore, another grandma then says that thanks to his success, they get to see sights like this and says that the Minji lady guided them all the way from the village and even got them seats in advance. Hearing all of that, Kangchan genuinely thanked Minji for going through all the trouble of doing everything she had done for him, but she got a little flustered and nervous about it and told him that he was basically family to them all, so it was only natural for the company to take care of things like that for him. All of a sudden, Kang-chan snapped back to reality and realized that he needed to hurry up and get himself ready so that he could go watch the next match as well, and here he was just standing around wasting his time like that. He quickly turned to his grandparents and told them to go ahead and rush over to watch the match, but his grandparents simply told him straight up that they had absolutely no interest in watching anyone else out there since they had come all the way here just to watch his match and his match only. Hearing that, Kang-chan completely freaked out and asked them if they had any idea at all how much a ticket to watch that person's fight actually cost and what a big deal it was to just skip it like that. Just at that moment, Seo-jun showed up out of nowhere and Kang-chan's grandparents looked at him and asked whether he was the world champion they had heard about, and then the grandfather suddenly went completely still as it hit him all at once that it was actually really him standing right there in front of them. Seo-jun then looked over at Kang-chan and congratulated him on his victory before telling him that now it was time for him to go out there and put on an absolutely amazing performance of his own and set a real example for everyone watching. Right at that moment, Kang-chan felt like the whole building was being hit by an earthquake because the entire arena was shaking and rumbling from the deafening cheers of tens of thousands of people all going off at the same time. Seo-jun steps into the ring where he comes face to face with his truly terrifying opponent who has white hair, but before the match can even get started, the entire crowd is already going absolutely insane and losing their minds over Seo-jun being there. The white-haired opponent looks over at Seo-jun and tells him that it must be really nice knowing that there are going to be so many people out there crying their eyes out for him if he ends up losing tonight. However, Seo-jun just shoots right back at him with a mocking response, telling him that what just happened between the two of them was simply an incredible exchange and that the whole moment where they traded combinations only lasted a grand total of 3 seconds. After that brief back and forth, the match officially gets underway with the white-haired opponent wasting absolutely no time and charging straight at Seo-jun right from the start. He manages to get an attack in and comes straight at him, but Seo-jun simply raises his guard up and blocks that punch before it can do any real damage. Seo-jun then casually asks him why he is in such a big rush to get things going. Seo-jun then steps back and creates some distance in order to avoid the other guy as much as he possibly can, but the opponent just keeps charging right back at him again with yet another punch without slowing down at all. Seo-jun then keeps right on dodging every single attack his opponent tries to throw at him one after another, and even fires back a little bit here and there with some jabs and other moves to keep him honest. Seo-jun then decides he is not going to just sit back and let things play out, and unleashes a massive shot straight at the opponent who looks genuinely shocked and surprised to see it coming at him like that. The commentators then call out that it was an absolutely amazing exchange between the two fighters and that the entire time they spent trading combinations back and forth only added up to a total of 3 seconds. Seeing all of that unfold, Kang-chan gets caught completely off guard and finds himself wondering just how many punches could have possibly gone back and forth between two people in only 3 seconds, and it hits him right then and there that this is what a real title fight at the highest level actually looks like. After that, both of the fighters suddenly flinch at the exact same time, which shocks Kang-chan so much that he immediately turns to his coach and asks him what that was all about. The coach explains to him that what just happened was both fighters reacting to each other's feints at the same time, and goes on to explain that this kind of thing comes up all the time in matches between boxers who are operating at a champion level, because fighters like these are not just fighting the person standing right in front of them physically, but are also fighting a whole separate battle going on inside each other's heads. The match then keeps going with the opponent coming forward and attacking with his left lead hand, and Seo-jun smoothly slips his right hand underneath that lead hand in one clean motion. The opponent then quickly twists his whole body around and tries to defend himself with his guard, but that guard gets completely blown away and scattered in an instant like it was nothing. Right at that moment, Seo-jun unloads on the opponent and throws as many punches as he possibly can in rapid succession, and the impact behind each one of those punches is so incredibly heavy and powerful that the opponent gets seriously shaken up from it all. The opponent then manages to spot an opening and tries to take his shot and attack Seo-jun with it, but Seo-jun reads it coming, slips out of the way, and fires a sharp jab straight into the opponent's face without missing a beat. The opponent player then gets down on the ground because of Seo-jun's counter. The referee then starts counting the numbers, but on the 7th second, the opponent player manages to get up and takes a fighting stance. The referee then walked over to him and asked him straight up whether he was still in good enough shape to keep going and continue the match, and he looked back at the referee and told him that he was ready to keep fighting. However, before the referee could even properly get the match back underway again, the opponent did not wait around at all and immediately charged straight at Seo-jun and threw an attack at him, but Seo-jun simply slipped out of the way without any trouble and fired one straight back directly into the opponent's face in the same motion. Seo-jun could barely believe it himself that the opponent had managed to make such a shaky and off-balance punch land the way it did under those kinds of conditions. Kang-chan watched from where he was and thought to himself that Seo-jun's stance had not even been properly set at that moment, and yet he had still been able to pull off a clean counter just like that. The coach jumped in and explained that it was actually the complete opposite of what it looked like, because what Seo-jun had done was attack while he was in the middle of dodging, meaning that he was able to react and respond in an absolute split second without needing to be fully set or ready beforehand. The coach went on to say that being able to respond effectively to any unexpected and irregular situation that gets thrown at them was what truly separated someone and made them worthy of being called a real champion. Seo-jun then looked down at his opponent and told him to get himself back up off the ground, because if he was going to go ahead and give up this early in the first round, then this whole thing was not going to be any fun for him at all. The opponent player's coach then tells him to get up as the round one is ending soon, and if he just gets up, he will have time to recover. Despite that, the opponent player falls hard on the ground, and the referee gets worried for him and asks if he still wants to continue. Hearing that, the opponent player then gets up even though he's shaky but definitely standing. The opponent player then completely loses his mind and wonders why he is seeing the sky again, and then realizes that he got here for the belt. He then thinks that the goal of becoming a world champion is just one step away. Seo-jun then acknowledges his mental strength and toughness at least and decides to give him a chance too. Seo-jun then starts slowly walking toward his opponent and speaks up, saying that he is going to put on a truly entertaining spectacle for all the people who came out from his hometown to watch, and that from this point forward he is not going to take a single step back no matter what happens. He then looks straight at his opponent and tells him to come to the center of the ring, which catches absolutely everyone off guard and surprises the whole crowd, and even Kang-chan finds himself completely puzzled and wondering out loud why in the world Seo-jun would voluntarily give up his positioning like that. The coach then leans over to Kang-chan and tells him that this is actually Seo-jun's long-standing chronic problem that has followed him throughout his entire career, because he simply cannot stand there and watch Korean boxing get disrespected in any kind of way, and on top of that he genuinely considers his own boxing to be a direct representation of Korea's boxing as a whole. The opponent then stands there and thinks to himself that he absolutely hates having to admit it, but the only real thing he can put any kind of hope into at this point is landing one single lucky punch, since there is really no good reason left for him to just refuse to accept that reality and go for it anyway. He then lets that thought fire him up and gets completely furious inside, making up his mind right then and there to pour out every single last thing he has left in him in order to win this match no matter what it costs him. After that, both of them charge straight at each other at the same time, and the very first one to actually connect a punch and make it land clean is none other than Seo-jun himself. However, his punch gets blocked before it can do any real damage, so he immediately follows it up and tries to throw another punch that this time catches the opponent right on the chin and lands with full force. He then starts unleashing all kinds of different attacks on the opponent one after another, and as all of this is happening the opponent slowly comes to the painful realization in his head that he used to be the undisputed king of this place, but now there is someone like Seo-jun standing right in front of him who has completely taken that spot away from him. Getting absolutely furious about that reality, he pushes himself and charges straight at Seo-jun one more time with everything he has left, but Seo-jun just calmly waits for the right moment and then finishes the whole thing off with an absolutely insane uppercut that sends the opponent flying through the air and crashing down to the canvas. With that one single devastating punch, the match comes to a complete end with Seo-jun walking away as the winner and successfully defending his title in front of the entire crowd. The opponent's coach immediately panics and frantically calls out to his team to hurry up and bring a stretcher over as fast as they possibly can. Seo-jun then spun around toward the coach and made it very clear that he was genuinely and seriously angry at him, telling him point blank that he should have already figured out by the time the second knockdown had happened that his fighter had absolutely no realistic chance of turning things around and winning at that point, and that the right and responsible thing to do would have been to throw in the towel right then and there in order to protect his fighter's long-term career from suffering any more damage than it already had. However, the coach thought to himself that the person who had wanted to throw in the towel the most out of anyone there was actually himself, because even before the match had gotten started he had heard threats coming at him hundreds of times over that he would be killed if he even thought about throwing in the towel, which made it crystal clear just how dead serious his fighter was about seeing things through to the very end no matter what. On the other hand, Seojun's coach then shifted his attention over to Kang-chan and told him that it had been a really great match for him to watch and that there was a whole lot he could take away and learn from it, and also reminded him that there was going to be a company dinner happening later, so he should take that opportunity to go around and ask people all kinds of questions while he had the chance. As it turned out though, Kang-chan had already slipped away and gone off somewhere else entirely without anyone noticing. Kang-chan had gone straight over to where Seojun was and walked right up to him to congratulate him on his victory, telling him sincerely that it had truly been an absolutely incredible fight to watch from start to finish. He also told Seojun that he himself had actually been way more nervous and fired up sitting there watching him fight than he had even been during his own match earlier. He then went on to add that the opponent had been a genuinely strong and tough fighter, and yet Seojun had somehow managed to go through the entire fight without getting hit even once, which made the whole performance even more jaw-dropping and amazing to think about. Going straight ahead with what was on his mind, Kang-chan told Seojun directly and honestly that he really genuinely wanted to face him inside the ring someday and get the chance to go up against him for real. Hearing those words come out of Kang-chan's mouth, Seojun got caught off guard for a brief moment and looked a little shocked before breaking into a response and telling him that they should absolutely make that happen someday, and then burst out laughing about the whole thing. He then threw his arm around Kang-chan in a friendly way and told him that there was not much they could do about it right now since he was a full 2 weight classes above him, and that Kang-chan was going to need to seriously pack on some muscle before he could even think about stepping into the ring with him. After that, Seojun got ready to head out and told Kang-chan that they would catch up again at the company dinner later that evening before walking off. Later that same night, everyone from the company gathered together and sat down for a big dinner party that Kang-chan was also a part of along with everyone else. One of the people in charge then stood up and congratulated both Kang-chan and Seojun on their victories that day and expressed his hope that tonight would be a gathering where everyone could just focus on celebrating what they had accomplished and enjoy themselves without thinking about anything else. However, Seojun could barely contain his excitement and jumped in to tell everyone at the table that Kang-chan had actually followed him all the way to the entrance of his waiting room earlier that day just to tell him straight to his face that he wanted to fight him in the ring someday. After that, the guy with the glasses turned to Kang-chan and told him that he had been wanting to talk to him about the next fight while the director happened to be there as well so they could all discuss it together. He explained that they had done a really good job of drawing in a lot of attention by having Kang-chan featured in Fighter Seojun's final stage, but that pulling off that same kind of attention for the next match was probably not going to be anywhere near as easy to do. The coach agreed with him and said that he was absolutely right about that, and that on top of everything else the difference in the number of people in the audience was going to be really huge and noticeable as well. The guy with the glasses then told everyone that their company had spent a lot of time worrying and thinking hard about how to handle that problem, but that they had eventually landed on what they thought was a really solid solution to the whole thing. He then revealed that the solution they had come up with was to set up a Korea versus Japan style match that would naturally generate a lot of public interest and national pride on its own. The coach then stepped in and told Kang-chan that they were going to sit down and talk through all of that in more detail later on, but that for right now he was getting a full week off to rest and recover. The guy with the glasses then jumped back in and added that the time off would also give him a good chance to heal up properly from all the damage his body had taken during the fight, and that it would be really great if he went out and enjoyed himself and had some fun with the fight money he was receiving for the very first time. Hearing all of that, Kang-chan suddenly remembered that his grandmother's birthday was coming up really soon and he did not want to let it slip by without doing something for her. He then turned to Seojun and asked her if she wanted to come along with him to go shopping since he had honestly never really done it before and had no idea where to even start. Upon hearing those words come out of his mouth, Seojun's face immediately went red and started blushing, and pretty much everyone else in the room jumped to the conclusion that he was basically asking her out on a date. The next day, Kang-chan and Seojun goes out for shopping and they arrive at a department store. Kang-chan then tells Seojun that she is dressed really pretty today, but she gets nervous and changes the topic. He then shows her a cheap scarf that is even thicker and warmer than the one she is showing him. Kang-chan then notices an arcade area and gets overly excited, so Seojun asks him if he wants to go. He then notices a punching machine and decides to give it a try, but he had no idea that it takes money to work. He then takes out a bundle of cash from his pocket, shocking Seojun. She then freaks out at him and asks why he is carrying so much cash around. In the end, Seojun paid for it and she notices some boy watching them. Instead of punching the machine, Kang-chan just punches bunch of light shots. Seeing that, Seojun gets mad at him and tells him to hit it hard once. She then gets embarrassed and decides to take him somewhere or else everyone is going to just laugh at them. Eventually, they run as far as they can and during that time, she notices him holding her hand. She then punches him and asks why is he grabbing her hand and making a scene. Right at that moment, a guy wearing a black hat deliberately bumps into Kang-chan and in that brief moment of contact manages to slip the cash envelope clean out of his pocket without him even noticing, but Seo-yoon happens to catch the whole thing happening right in front of her eyes. She then immediately starts shouting out loud that the guy is a pickpocket and that he just stole something, but the guy takes off running and thinks to himself as he goes that it is already way too late for anyone to do anything about it and that nobody is going to be able to catch up to him now. To his complete and total surprise, however, both Kang-chan and Seo-yoon manage to chase him down and catch up to him, and they confront him and tell him straight up to hand it back right now. Eventually the police show up on the scene and go ahead and arrest the pickpocket before he gets the chance to run off or do something even worse than what he had already pulled. Seo-yoon then turns to Kang-chan and tells him that from now on he really needs to just use a card instead of walking around with cash like that so this kind of thing does not happen again. She then suddenly realizes that the two of them still have not figured out what they are going to get as a gift for his grandmother, but Kang-chan already has an idea forming in his head and reaches out and picks up a really warm and soft cotton blanket for her. Seo-yoon then looks over at him with a surprised expression on her face when she sees him balancing that big and heavy thing up on his neck and asks him why in the world he is getting a blanket out of everything he could have chosen. Kang-chan simply tells her that his grandmother has always really loved blankets and that he wants her to be able to sleep warmly and comfortably even when he is not there with her. The following day, Kang-chan makes his way back to his village specifically to go and visit his grandmother and drop off some gifts that he had brought along for her. However, she does not even bother to turn around and look at him and just stays lying there on her bed with her whole body facing the complete opposite direction away from him. Kang-chan desperately pleads with her to just turn around and look at him since he had traveled all this way from so far away just to come and see her. Deep down inside, Kang-chan notices that she is still using the exact same blanket that he had bought for her to use during the winter, but no matter what he says she absolutely refuses to turn around and show him her face. Feeling really hurt and disheartened by the whole thing, Kang-chan eventually gives up and leaves the village, and he does not even sit down to eat anything there despite his grandfather doing everything he can to pressure him into staying for a meal before he goes. Once Kang-chan finally leaves and heads out, the grandfather walks over to the grandmother and tells her that she should have at least fed Kang-chan a proper meal before letting him walk out the door like that, but she just keeps on tearing up and cannot seem to stop herself from crying. She tells him that every single time she looks at Kang-chan's bruised and beaten up face, the tears just start coming out on their own and she feels absolutely terrible about herself as his grandmother for not even being able to show up and cheer him on at his fight. As it turns out, about a full month before Kang-chan's next scheduled fight, a whole bunch of articles start popping up everywhere that put a heavy emphasis on the fact that his upcoming opponent is a Japanese fighter, and on top of that Kang-chan had already picked up quite a decent amount of public recognition from having been featured in Seojin's opening match the last time around. Since both fighters happen to share the exact same ring name of Smiling Boxer, a really interesting and attention-grabbing rivalry naturally starts to form between the two of them, which ends up drawing a whole lot of public attention and curiosity from people all over. A few days later, the coach sits Kang-chan down and pulls up a video of his next opponent, Yamamoto Ruji, who comes across in the footage as a complete and total weirdo in the way he carries himself inside the ring. Kang-chan turns to his grandfather and asks him whether the kind of stuff Ruji was doing in the video was even allowed in the first place, and his grandfather tells him that as long as the referee does not step in and hand out a penalty for it, then it is perfectly fine and there is nothing stopping him from doing it. He also goes on to explain that boxing is ultimately a sport where putting on a show and entertaining the crowd is a really important part of the whole thing, and that not everyone out there is going to be as straightforward and polite about it as Kang-chan is. Kang-chan then finds himself getting genuinely fascinated watching Ruji move around in the footage, because the way Ruji moves inside the ring honestly feels to him like he is out there dancing rather than actually fighting. Kang-chan then tells his coach that he is heading out for a roadwork run and gets up and leaves, but on his way out he ends up crossing paths with a group of other players from the gym. They tell Kang-chan that a new article about his upcoming fight has already come out, and point out that it has not even been that long since he made his debut and he is already lined up for another fight so soon. One of them then brings up the fact that Kang-chan's next opponent is Japanese, and hearing that, the guy with the purple hair pipes up and says that he thinks Kang-chan is going to have a really hard time in this one. Sometime later, Kang-chan goes out for a run and wonders what that guy means by him having a hard time mentally. On his way through the neighborhood, he ends up running into two old guys who finally recognize him as the fighter they had seen competing in Seojin's opening match not too long ago. One of the old guys tells him straight up that he had watched his fight and thought it was really intense and exciting to see. The old man also mentions that he had heard Kang-chan's next fight was basically going to be a Korea versus Japan kind of situation and tells him that he absolutely cannot afford to lose to Japan, comparing it to losing at something as simple as rock paper scissors. Kang-chan then gets back to his run and a little further down the road runs into a group of young boys who recognize him right away and immediately ask him for his autograph. The boys tell Kang-chan that they want him to go out there and completely destroy the Japanese fighter, but before Kang-chan can even get a single word in response, his phone goes off and he sees that it is a call coming in from his grandparents. It turns out that they are calling for the exact same reason, telling him that they want him to destroy the Japanese fighter and letting him know just how hard they are rooting and cheering for him from back home. After that, Kang-chan wraps up the call and takes a quick picture with the fans before heading off on his way. Later on, he settles into a sauna bath and just sits there feeling how tight and heavy his chest has gotten from carrying around all of the expectations and pressure that everyone around him keeps piling on. 1 full month passes by, and the day of the match between Kang-chan and his Japanese opponent Ryuji finally arrives, and absolutely everyone in the arena is out there cheering loudly for him. Right at that moment, Ryuji makes his way into the ring and Kang-chan right away notices something that catches his attention, which is the fact that Ryuji looks a whole lot more focused and dead serious this time compared to anything Kang-chan had ever seen from him before in any of his previous fights or footage. The match then gets going with Kang-chan sending out a jab in Ryuji's direction to test the waters, but Ryuji does not hesitate for even a split second and immediately sends one right back at him in return. Everyone spread out across the stadium gradually starts picking up on the fact that both of these fighters are moving around in a way that looks noticeably stiff and overly cautious, and most of the people watching recognize that kind of careful and calculated back and forth as the typical feeling out process that tends to happen right at the beginning of a fight when both guys are still in the middle of trying to get a read on each other and figure out what they are dealing with. The crowd then starts getting more and more restless and impatient as things go on, and people begin shouting out directly at Kang-chan, telling him that the kind of performance he is putting on right now in front of them is clearly nowhere near the real level of skill that they all know he is capable of, and that he needs to stop whatever he is doing and actually go out there and show everyone in that stadium what he is genuinely made of. It seems like the audience is also picking up on the feeling that both fighters are in a completely different kind of condition compared to what they had shown before, and the performance that Kang-chan had put on during his debut fight, as well as the way Ryuji had looked in his previous matches, both look quite noticeably different from what either of them is showing right now inside the ring. Kang-chan thinks to himself that something about all of this feels really off and strange, because what he is seeing right now is way too different from everything he had watched and studied in all those videos beforehand. He thinks to himself that Ryuji had been so much more agile and free-spirited and loose in those videos, so it just does not add up at all why he is moving around so stiffly and carefully right now. The coach then tells Kang-chan to relax because he looks stiff right now. Seo-yoon also asks the coach what's wrong with him as his body looks too heavy. The coach says that this is why he didn't want to put him in an international match so early in his debut as his body isn't heavy but his heart is heavy. He further says that no matter how strong Kang-chan's mentality is, he's still a rookie and if he thinks of this match not as individual but as country versus country, that burden will double. He also says that he will perceive people's cheers not as simple support but as pressure. Hearing that, Seo-yoon gets worried and wonders what she should do and what would ease Kang-chan's tension. Eventually, first rounds end without any significant effective hits from either side. He then tells the coach that there is something wrong with his body, so the coach says that it seems the pressure of the Korea versus Japan match is quite significant. Just then, Seo-yoon shows up and starts scolding Kang-chan. She continues to tell him that he should freeze up like he is carrying the whole country on his shoulders. She then reaches out and grabs his cheeks with her hands and tells him straight up that he has not smiled even a single time today, pointing out that he is always grinning away during sparring sessions, and that if he does not bring that same energy into the tournament then his real skills are simply never going to come out the way they are supposed to. Before heading off, Seo-yoon leaves him with one last thing to think about, telling him to focus his mind on the people he actually wants to protect and to stop trying to carry the weight of complete strangers on his back like it is his responsibility. After that, the second round gets underway and both of them come out fighting at a really fast and intense pace right from the very start. Kang-chan keeps throwing all kinds of different blows at his opponent one after another, but Ryuji surprisingly manages to dodge a whole lot of them by using his incredibly flexible body to bend and move in ways that are really hard to predict or prepare for. The match keeps going and turns into such an incredibly close and back-and-forth fight that even the audience finds themselves genuinely surprised and on the edge of their seats watching it all play out. Kang-chan picks up on the fact that Ryuji is not only remarkably flexible in the way he moves, but that his overall movement speed is really fast on top of that as well. Ruji then goes straight ahead and punches Kangchan clean in the face and immediately try to follow it up with another attack, but Kangchan manages to dodge out of the way before it can land. He then starts bouncing around the ring in a really wild and energetic way that looks almost like something straight out of a Goku fight scene, as if he has finally locked in and found his own natural rhythm at last. After that, Ruji just straight up charges at Kangchan with a punch and tells him out loud that he has found his rhythm and completely locked into his own flow. He then gets genuinely caught off guard and surprised when he realizes that Kangchan has gone ahead and found his own rhythm as well at the exact same time. 2 months back, the coach had walked up to Kangchan and handed him a pair of headphones, telling him that from that point forward every single training session was going to be done while listening to music, and that whether he was out on a run or doing shadow boxing he needed to always have those headphones on without exception. Seo-yoon also chimed in and explained that the playlist was going to randomly shuffle through music covering all kinds of different tempos ranging all the way from classical pieces to hip-hop tracks, and that she had personally gone through and handpicked every single song on it herself. On top of all of that, the coach also told Kangchan that starting from that very day they were going to be adding a brand new training routine into the mix, and that he would let him know the details ahead of time so that Kangchan needed to make sure he showed up every single morning at 9 o'clock sharp and ready to go. Kangchan then got back to his shadow boxing training with the headphones in and the music playing while working alongside the other people at the gym, and he thought to himself that it was actually a whole lot harder and more demanding than he had initially expected it to be. 1 full month after that, the coach told Seo-yoon to go ahead and play the song, and once it started playing the coach turned to Kangchan and told him that he was going to be hitting the mitts in sync with whatever the song was doing. Just as the song plays, Kangchan throws his punches according to it, and the coach thinks that he has learned to control the tempo really well. He further says that the training so far has been a process of controlling his own rhythm and it's not all about hitting recklessly. The coach also tells him that sometimes soft, sometimes strong hits make it harder for the opponent to react, and this next opponent is very skilled at this tempo control. On top of everything else, the coach reminds Kangchan that the fighter known as Yamamoto Ruji has a really clear and distinct rhythm of his own that he operates by, and that even though he may come across as free-spirited and incredibly flexible in the way he moves around, he most definitely has his own set rhythm underneath all of that never really goes away. Back in the present moment, Ruji feels a real sense of happiness and excitement building up inside him as he notices that his body's tension is finally starting to rise the way he likes it to, and on top of that he realizes that Kangchan's smile has actually been helping his tension ease up and loosen in a way that is making him feel more and more comfortable out there as the fight goes on. He then keeps right on throwing attack after attack at Kangchan, who manages to keep dodging out of the way and tries to fire back with attacks of his own in between. Right at that exact moment, Ruji picks up on what looks like a clear opening presenting itself, and he thinks to himself that Kangchan is getting ready to come straight in at him, and that the second he does Ruji is going to be completely set and ready to unload a blow on him the moment he gets within range. Kangchan then goes ahead and throws a blow at him that catches Ruji completely off guard and leaves him standing there genuinely puzzled and wondering how Kangchan had possibly managed to read and see 2 full moves ahead of everything that Ruji had figured was going to happen next. Even after getting caught like that though, Ruji absolutely refuses to just stand there frozen and take it without responding, and instead does something really clever by using the backward falling momentum to carefully set himself up and deliver a really precise and perfectly placed liver shot that lands exactly where he wanted it to. Ruji then feels a wave of satisfaction wash over him knowing that Kangchan should not be able to move properly after taking a shot like that right to the liver, but then to his complete and total surprise Kangchan pushes through it and tries to come at him again anyway. Kangchan thinks to himself that no matter how much it is hurting right now, he absolutely has to keep moving forward because he cannot afford to let Ruji take back the flow of the fight from him. Kangchan then keeps right on going and lands several more blows on Ruji one after another, and at this point it looks pretty clear to everyone watching that he has completely taken over the flow of the entire fight. The coach thinks to himself that if a fighter's rhythm is even just half a beat faster than their opponent's, that alone is enough to win the fight pretty easily without needing much else. Now that Ruji has been pushed all the way back to the ropes, he just swings himself around and starts dodging each and every move that comes at him from that corner position. But somewhere in between all of that dodging, he manages to pull off a counterattack using the ropes for momentum, and the whole thing ends with him crashing down hard onto the ground. Right after that, the referee starts counting down, so the coach immediately and urgently calls out to Kangchan telling him to get himself back up off the ground since he had just been knocked down. Kangchan then pushes himself up and looks over at the referee and tells him straight up that he is still good to go and can absolutely continue fighting. The match then picks right back up again with Kangchan feeling noticeably nervous about the whole situation, but before he can even fully settle himself back in, Ruji just straight up comes at him with an attack without giving him any time to breathe or reset. Ruji then picks up on the fact that Kangchan's reaction time has slowed down quite a bit, which he immediately recognizes as a really good sign for himself and his chances of finishing things off. He then keeps right on throwing attack after attack at Kangchan, who is already completely worn out at this point, and thinks to himself that he genuinely cannot afford to just keep absorbing hits like this and that he has absolutely got to start extending his hand and throwing back. The coach then shouts out loudly at Kangchan from the corner, reminding him that he is not the only one out there who is running on empty right now, because the opponent has been piling up damage this whole time as well and is just as worn down as he is. The coach also reminds him that he has landed more clean hits throughout the fight than Ruji has. Hearing all of that shouted at him, Kangchan snaps back to it and realizes that the opponent really has slowed down quite a bit as well when he stops and thinks about it clearly. He then thinks to himself that trying to pull off any kind of hit and run strategy in the condition he is currently in is basically impossible, but even knowing that he still has absolutely no choice but to go ahead and try it anyway. Kangchan then drops down into his peekaboo stance, which immediately makes Seo Yoon start wondering out loud to herself whether he can actually pull something like that off in the condition he is currently in. The coach then turns to her and explains that Kangchan's neck muscles had already been really highly developed and built up from all the years of physical work he had put in during his life back in the countryside, and that the muscles running along the back of his neck that are responsible for absorbing and withstanding punches were both remarkably flexible and incredibly solid at the same time. However, the coach points out that despite how durable and tough Kangchan is when it comes to taking hits, he is not the kind of fighter who hits with a lot of raw power behind his punches, since he has never once finished a fight with a single punch, even in situations where he clearly had the opportunity right there in front of him to do exactly that. The coach then quietly hopes to himself that now that Kangchan has gone ahead and taken up an infighting stance, he is finally going to stop holding back and hesitating the way he always tends to do. Ruji then keeps right on throwing all kinds of different blows at Kangchan one after another, but Kangchan manages to slip and dodge each one of them with a surprising amount of ease by using the peekaboo style to his advantage. Ruji then gets genuinely caught off guard when he realizes that there are simply no openings presenting themselves anywhere, but when he goes ahead and throws a straight shot at Kangchan anyway, Kangchan just soaks it up by blocking it clean with both hands and immediately fires one right back directly into his face without wasting even a moment. Ruji then tries to come back with a counterattack of his own, but Kangchan dodges that one as well without much trouble and lands yet another clean punch straight into his face one more time, just like before. Ruji then starts drifting back closer and closer toward the ropes and looks at Kangchan and tells him straight up that this right here is his territory and that he is completely comfortable operating from this position. Seeing that happening, the coach speaks up and explains that going after a fighter who is using head movement while backed up against the ropes is something that gets referred to as flexible movement, and that this style of fighting takes full advantage of the recoil that the ropes provide to create a really significant number of unpredictable variables that are hard to account for and deal with. However, the coach also points out that if someone simply uses their lead hand to block off the opponent's path and cut off their movement, they can completely shut down and take away the option of the opponent sliding back and forth along the ropes the way they want to. Kangchan then puts that advice into action and completely traps Ruji right there against the ropes with no room left to move anywhere, and just starts unloading on him with constant and relentless attacks one right after another without letting up for even a second. Then with one final and really powerful blow landed clean right on his face, Ruji goes down and hits the ground hard. After that, we get Ruji's backstory, which shows that he had been a member of the most well-known and infamous biker gang in all of Osaka back in those days. He used to think to himself that the only things he really had going for him in life were his body and his bike, and even on the absolute worst days when everything had gone completely sideways, his mom would barely manage to scrape together enough energy to come down and get him out of the police station. One of the older men around him tried to tell Ruji that he really needed to treat his mother better and be good to her, but Ruji immediately got furious about being told what to do and snapped back at the old man and told him to mind his own business and stop trying to lecture him about his life. He told the old man that the only thing his mother had ever given him was this healthy and strong body he was walking around in, and that he was doing just fine using it to survive and get by on his own terms. Ruji's mom then came to him one day completely exhausted and told him that she was just really tired of it all, and asked him whether he could just go out and find some work and try to live a normal and regular life like everybody else around him was doing. She also brought up the fact that if his late father could somehow see the way he was out there living his life right now, he would have been really angry and deeply disappointed in him. She then suddenly collapsed and fell right down to the ground, so Ruji rushed her straight to the hospital where the doctors pulled him aside and told him that she was suffering from kidney failure. The doctor went on to explain to Ruji that it looked like her kidneys had already taken quite a serious amount of damage, going all the way back to a condition called preeclampsia, and that on top of that, the combination of overworking herself and not eating or taking care of herself properly had made her symptoms get a whole lot worse just recently. Right at that moment, it finally hit Ruji like a truck that his mother had completely worn down and ruined her own body in the process of giving birth to him and then spending all those years raising him on her own, and yet he had been walking around this whole time thinking to himself that he had never really received anything from her at all. After that whole realization sank in, he started working every single waking hour he had just to try and bring in enough money, but even with all of that effort they could barely scrape together enough to cover the hospital bills alone, let alone even come close to affording a transplant. Eventually he stumbled across a boxing poster somewhere, and that was what got him started down the path of boxing, with the idea in his head that if he could make it all the way to becoming a champion, then the cost of that surgery would end up feeling like nothing worth worrying about. Ruji then showed his mother some clips of him boxing, and she genuinely really loved seeing it, and what made her the happiest was the simple fact that he had finally set his mind to something meaningful and was actually putting in the hard work to chase after it. Later on, the old guy from the neighborhood came up to Ruji and told him that he absolutely had to go out there and win his international match no matter what it took, since he was going to be out there representing the whole country of Japan on that stage. At first Ruji felt really happy and warm inside knowing that the whole neighborhood was out there cheering for him and rooting for his success, but then a conflicted feeling started creeping in and he found himself wondering whether someone like him, with the kind of past he had, was even the right person to be out there representing an entire country. Back in the present, Ruji finally starts coming back to his senses after everything that had just happened, and the very first thing his eyes land on when he looks up is Kang-chan right there beside him helping him out. Kang-chan then goes ahead and thanks Ruji directly in Japanese, which Ruji genuinely gets a real kick out of hearing, and it makes him burst out laughing right then and there. Seo-yoon then turns to Kang-chan and asks him whether he had prepared that word ahead of time, already assuming that he was going to win, and he tells her straight up that he would have gone ahead and said it either way regardless of whether he had won or lost. Seo-yoon then gets all flustered and shy all of a sudden and finds herself quietly wondering to herself whether Kang-chan's shoulders and back had always been that broad and she just never noticed it before. The next day, Ruji makes his way back home to Japan, and the very first thing his eyes land on when he steps outside the airport is his mother standing right there waiting for him, holding up a welcome champion board with a big smile on her face. She tells him that she had gone back and watched the video of the match and that she genuinely thought that this was hands down the coolest and most impressive match she had ever seen him fight, and then she pulls him in and wraps her arms around him in a tight hug that ends up making him completely break down and cry right there in front of everyone. Meanwhile, back on the other side of things, Seo-yoon and the rest of the people around Kang-chan gather around and tell him to come over and watch a clip that has been going around of another fighter who is directly challenging him, and in the clip the fighter casually asks whether his grandmother is doing well and holding up okay. The second Kang-chan sees that, he gets furious and his face hardens up as he demands to know what that fighter could possibly mean by bringing his grandmother into it like that. Kang-chan goes and seeks out the head of the company to sit down and talk the whole thing through with him, and he goes ahead and tells him everything from start to finish about how he had first crossed paths with Seo-jun back when he was still living in his village. The head listens to all of it and thinks to himself that it is actually a pretty big and serious issue given the fact that Seo-jun is involved in the story, but then tells Kang-chan that things are fine the way they stand right now and there is no need to blow it up into something bigger. He also points out that the fortunate thing about the whole situation is that neither party involved seems to have any real interest in bringing it up or talking about it publicly. He then goes on to say that what Sangi had actually said during his live stream basically just amounted to comments suggesting that Kang-chan was beneath him, along with a bunch of other insults clearly designed to get under his skin and provoke a reaction out of him. The head thinks that what Sangi really wants to do is use this whole story and the drama surrounding it to push the match forward and raise his own public profile and awareness in the process. The coach then speaks up and makes it clear that he is completely against the whole idea, pointing out that any match that gets mixed up with personal emotions and grudges like this stops being a proper match altogether. The coach and the head then end up getting into a pretty heated back and forth argument with each other over the whole situation surrounding Kang-chan and Sangi's brawl. The head tells the coach straight up that Sangi is the kind of opponent that Kang-chan should be able to beat without too much trouble, and that it could actually turn out to be a really good opportunity for Kang-chan to build up his record nicely before he starts going after a title shot. However, the coach fires back and points out that Kang-chan is already carrying around a really significant amount of mental fatigue left over from everything that went into the Korea-Japan match, and that piling something like this on top of that is not a good idea at all. Just then, Kang-chan receives a call from the village chief who tells him something so important that it messes up his mind. It turns out, the grandfathers and grandmothers of Sunshine Village played with him since he was such a mischievous guy. They even set specific dates and times to take turns raising him, and they said that whoever was on duty that day would be so exhausted they couldn't do anything the next day. It turns out, today Grandma Young-hee passed away and the coach along with Kang-chan visits the village. The coach asks one of the grandmas why is Kang-chan the chief mourner, so she says that Grandma Young-hee didn't have any children and she particularly adored Kang-chan. The grandmother gives a note to the coach and tells him to give it to Kang-chan. But when he reads the notes, he thinks that now is not the right time to give this to him. The next day, Kang-chan agrees for the match even though the coach says that now is not the right time for him to play as emotions will get involved. The coach further tells him that he knows his record is 1 win, 3 losses and he is naturally superior in terms of skills. He also says that one of those losses was a disqualification for Sang-gi and he is a dirty guy whose personality shows in his playstyle. On top of everything else, the coach pulls Kang-chan aside and tells him that there is nothing special or out of the ordinary about the training plan for this one, and that all he needs to do is keep going through his regular exercises as usual and make absolutely sure that he keeps a really firm and steady grip on his mental state throughout the whole process. Finally, the day of the weigh-in arrives and pretty much everyone there gets caught off guard and surprised when they see that Kang-chan's body looks noticeably and significantly different from how it had looked before. Seo-yoon gets really worried when she sees it and starts wondering out loud why he had not said anything to any of them about it, because the weight cut process must have been an incredibly painful and difficult thing to push through on his own without telling anyone. Sang-gi then starts running his mouth and mocking Kang-chan, making some comment about his grandmother and then also going on about how Kang-chan had somehow managed to get so much taller in such a short stretch of time. He then keeps right on going and continues to make fun of Kang-chan's grandmother who had passed away, but rather than losing his temper and flying off the handle right then and there, Kang-chan just looks straight at him and thanks him sarcastically for coming over to him and getting in his face like that, and then tells him coldly and directly that he is going to beat him to death when they get in that ring. The very next day, the match between the two of them finally gets underway and Kang-chan does not waste even a single second, charging straight at Sang-gi right from the very first moment without any hesitation at all. After that, Kang-chan lands a punch clean on his face and does not even think about stopping after just one as he keeps right on hitting him without letting up for even a moment. Kang-chan then drives a direct and powerful hit straight into his stomach that sends Sang-gi dropping down onto his knee and it is called as a knockdown. Kang-chan immediately tries to go after him again and land another hit while he is down, but the referee steps in between them and stops him right there, telling him firmly to calm himself down and get back over to his corner. Seo-yoon watches all of this and thinks to herself that Sang-gi is simply no match for Kang-chan at all and is completely outclassed. However, the coach sees things very differently and thinks that it is completely obvious to anyone paying attention that Kang-chan is way too agitated and worked up out there, pointing out that he is leaving way too many openings exposed and that his overall condition does not look good at all. The match then picks back up again with Kang-chan once more charging straight forward and going after Sang-gi with a punch, but this time Sang-gi throws one back at him as well and Kang-chan barely manages to get out of the way in time before it connects. Sang-gi then throws his entire body weight right into Kang-chan and leans on him heavily, and Kang-chan starts trying to shove him off and create some separation between them. The coach then shouts out at Kang-chan and tells him not to try and push him off like that and to just relax his whole body and stay loose instead. The referee then comes in and physically separates the two of them, but right in the middle of that separation Sang-gi goes ahead and throws a punch anyway. The referee immediately gets really angry at him for pulling something like that and tells him straight up that throwing a punch during a clinch is completely against the rules and that he had better watch himself and be a lot more careful about it going forward. The match picks right back up again with Kang-chan launching a punch directly at Sang-gi's face, and right as that happens Sang-gi starts to notice that the strength and power that had been behind Kang-chan's punches has fallen off by a pretty noticeable amount compared to how hard he had been hitting earlier in the fight. With that piece of information fresh in his mind, Sang-gi goes right back to his strategy of grabbing onto Kang-chan and wrapping himself around him in a clinch, doing everything he can to keep Kang-chan locked up and burn through whatever energy and stamina he still has left in him as fast as he possibly can. In a moment that nobody saw coming at all, Sang-gi suddenly throws a completely dirty and cheap elbow strike right into Kang-chan and immediately follows that up by slamming his head forward and driving it straight into Kang-chan's skull in a completely deliberate headbutt that was impossible to mistake for an accident. Right at that moment, the referee immediately jumps in and rings the bell to bring everything to a stop before anything else can happen, and then spins around to face Seongi and tells him in no uncertain terms that depending on just how serious the injury that Kang-chan has ended up with turns out to be after getting checked out, what Seongi just pulled could very easily end up resulting in a full disqualification being handed down against him. The coach rushes over to Kang-chan as quickly as his legs can carry him in order to check on him and get a proper look at how bad the damage actually is, and the moment he gets a good look at it he immediately knows that the cut that has split open above Kang-chan's eye is far too deep and serious to just patch up and move past like it is nothing. The referee happens to be standing close enough to catch what the coach is saying and walks over to join them, telling the group that from where things stand right now it genuinely looks like continuing the match in this kind of condition is going to be an extremely difficult thing to justify, and that based on everything in front of them they are going to go ahead and hand down a disqualification loss to the opponent for what he did. Kang-chan however is not having any of that and pushes back hard against the whole idea, looking the referee dead in the eye and telling him clearly and firmly that he does not want the match to end that way and that he fully intends to get back out there and keep fighting regardless of what his body is going through right now. The coach then quietly pulls Seo Yoon off to the side away from everyone else and fills her in, letting her know that they have already done everything they possibly can with the first aid treatment on Kang-chan's cut to try and manage the bleeding. But that blood has already been making its way into his eye and the reality of the situation is that there is absolutely no way that Kang-chan is anywhere near the kind of condition that would allow him to keep competing at a normal level right now. The match begins with Kang-chan throwing blows at Seongi that hits him quite badly, but on the last attack, the distance is quite long so he missed it. Seongi then manages to hit him in the same injured spot above his eye, that blurs his vision and with second strike he makes Kang-chan fall on the ground. After that, Kang-chan ends up losing consciousness completely, and when he finally comes back around and opens his eyes, the coach is right there beside him and tells him straight up that they lost the match. Seongi then wastes absolutely no time and immediately starts running his mouth and making fun of Kang-chan, telling him that he had talked so big about killing him but here he was lying around sleeping in the middle of the ring like that. He then goes even further and says that if the referee had not stepped in and stopped things when he did, Kang-chan would have ended up in a coffin just like that old granny from his village. Hearing those words come out of Seongi's mouth, the coach completely loses it and freaks out, telling Seongi that the only thing he has ever figured out how to do in his entire career is fight dirty with fouls, and that he needs to get out of his sight right now before things get really ugly. Later on, back in the locker room, Seongi takes out all the built-up anger and frustration he is feeling by driving his fist straight into one of the lockers and putting a dent in it. The coach then walks over to Kang-chan and hands him a letter that his grandmother Young-hee had left behind specifically for him before she passed. Kang-chan then carefully opens it up and starts reading through it, and in the letter his grandmother tells him that she had already known for a while that her time was coming soon and that she had lived a really full and happy life overall, but that there was just one single regret that she could not let go of before she was gone. She tells him in the letter that she had always known how much he loved boxing, and that at her age she could not really find it in herself to get all that fired up and passionate about things the way she used to, but that watching him out there doing what he loved had made her feel something burning and alive deep inside her heart all over again. She goes on to tell him that that was the exact reason why she had been secretly sneaking out and patching up his punching bag behind his back before it could completely fall apart, and why she had been quietly going out and pulling all the weeds from the area where he used to go and train outside. She also tells him that her one and only real regret in this life is that she is going to have to leave this world without getting the chance to see him stand up there as a champion, but that she is going to be up in heaven watching over every single thing he does from up there. Reading those words, Kang-chan completely breaks down and the tears just start pouring out of him, and the coach stands there and tells him quietly that he has taken a step further away from his dream by letting his emotions take over and sway him the way they did. The very next day, the coach goes straight to the head and tells him flat out that they are going to make a rematch happen, but the head pushes back and tells him that there is really no good reason why the other side would ever agree to sit down and accept another match after what already happened. The coach tells him that the way they are going to make it happen is by offering them 3 times the normal fight money, because guys like Seongi who are mediocre and have not really made it to any significant level are almost always pretty easily swayed and won over when a big enough amount of money gets put on the table in front of them. The coach then adds that he is going to personally put up and pay that entire amount straight out of his own pocket, and makes it crystal clear that if Kang-chan steps into that ring and loses this rematch, he is going to be expelled from the gym with absolutely no exceptions, and that decision is completely final. After all of that got sorted out, the company put its full focus into making sure that the story of Kang-chan's unfair and dirty defeat got out there in the right way so that his popularity and public image would not take too big of a hit from the whole situation, and eventually the rematch got arranged and set up properly. 3 full months go by, and the day finally arrives for Kangchan to step back into the ring and go up against Sangi one more time, but on his way there he unexpectedly runs into his grandmother. She looks at him and tells him that she is going to be right there cheering for him from this point forward, because she has realized that he has been out there doing all of this completely on his own the entire time without anyone in his corner cheering him on from the very beginning. The rematch then gets underway and Kangchan comes out and starts absolutely beating Sangi up badly right from the start, and Sangi tries to fall back on his old trick of clinging onto Kangchan and wrapping himself around him in a clinch just like he had done before. However, this time around Kangchan is completely prepared for it and smoothly pulls off the exact same slick dodge and escape move that he had watched Seo Jun use, and within just a matter of a few seconds from the very start of the match Kangchan puts Sangi down and knocks him out completely. However, Sangi absolutely refuses to just stay down and somehow finds the will to push himself back up off the canvas, which genuinely catches Kangchan off guard and makes him think to himself that it must be taking everything Sangi has left just to get back up like that. The match then picks right back up again with Kangchan continuing to unload blow after blow on Sangi, who is having a really hard time getting out of the way of each one of them no matter how hard he tries. Eventually Sangi's legs give out underneath him and he goes down to the ground for a second time, and everyone watching starts wondering out loud whether this is really the same fighter they had seen in the previous match because he looks like a completely different and far more outclassed person out there. Sangi thinks to himself that he genuinely cannot even see the punches coming at him at all anymore and has no idea where they are coming from. The referee then crouches down and asks him directly whether he wants to go ahead and continue with the match, and Sangi immediately tells him straight away without any hesitation that he can absolutely keep fighting. The referee then informs him that if he goes down one more time from this point on, the match is going to be stopped and ended right there on the spot due to the 3 knockdown rule being in effect. Hearing that, Sangi gets absolutely furious about it and tries to argue against it and deny that it should apply, but the referee just ignores all of that and goes ahead and starts the match back up again anyway. Sangi then throws himself at Kangchan and comes at him with everything he has right from the very first second, but Kangchan manages to read and dodge every single attack that comes flying his way without getting touched even once. Right at that moment, something clicks inside Kangchan's head, and he realizes for the first time that fights where emotions are all mixed up and running high actually end up feeling really slow and easy to read compared to a clear-headed one. Kangchan then lines up his shot perfectly and connects with a clean uppercut on Sangi, and then just keeps right on going and throws all kinds of different blows at him one after another that end up knocking him out completely within just the very first round. With that, Kangchan walks away with the victory and the whole thing is over. The crowd then absolutely erupts and starts cheering loudly for Kangchan, with people shouting out that they always knew he was going to come out on top and letting him know just how hard they had been rooting for him throughout the whole thing. A reporter then steps forward and congratulates Kangchan on his victory before asking him how it feels to come back and win a rematch after going through such an unpleasant and frustrating defeat the first time around. Right at that moment, a mysterious-looking guy who had been sitting somewhere in the crowd suddenly gets up and walks straight into the ring and reaches out and grabs the microphone, telling Kangchan directly that he has been keeping a really close eye on his recent matches and watching everything he has been doing. He then reaches up and takes off his hat and introduces himself to everyone as Taejin, the reigning champion of his weight class. Seeing that, the entire crowd gets surprised, with people turning to each other and wondering out loud what a lightweight champion is even doing there showing up like this. Taejin then looks straight at Kangchan and puts out an open and direct challenge for a fight between the two of them. The next day, Kangchan asks the head why a champion suddenly challenged him. The head says that boxing used to be an unpopular sport in Korea, but popularity skyrocketed after Seo Jun became the world champion. He says that because of that, the current situation is that anything related to him gets more attention than even title matches. Kangchan then asks him if it's okay for him to have a title match already, but the head says that if he moves up a weight class now, his record will be wiped, and he will have to build it up again in the new class. The coach then intervenes, saying the key is whether or not he can beat the champion and says that the win rate in his opinion is 10%. The coach then asks Kangchan what do he think his boxing is. He says that his fundamentals are solid, but he don't have a boxing style of his own, and if he don't have that, his title challenge will end in defeat. On their way out, the coach tells him that next week it's Seo Yun's title challenge and Sungwoo's title defense. 1 week later, the day that everyone has been waiting for finally arrives and it is time for Seo Yun to step into the ring and face off against her opponent, who turns out to be quite a bit taller than her in person. The day before the match, right after Seo Yun's weigh-in is done and finished, Kangchan and Seo Yun end up sitting together at a cafe. Kang-chan takes the moment to genuinely thank her for absolutely everything she has done for him throughout their time together, but Seo-yoon immediately brushes it off and tells him straight-faced that she only came out because she wanted to eat something after getting through her weight cut, and that was really all there was to it. Seo-yoon then looks over at him and notices that he seems pretty down and gloomy about something, so she asks him what is going on, and he opens up and tells her that he has been feeling really nervous about her upcoming match, and that on top of that he has been spending a lot of time lately wondering to himself what his own boxing style really is at its core. Seo-yoon then takes that in a lighthearted and fun kind of way and tells him that he had actually done a really impressive job with his close-range infighting during the match against Ruji, and that the way he fights could best be described as a completely unfixed and free style that does not lock itself into any one particular pattern. She also throws out the idea that part of the reason for that could be the fact that he grew up surrounded by really good and wise older people around him, and that his ring intelligence comes across as genuinely creative and free-flowing in a way that is pretty unique. As it turns out, Seo-yoon then opens up and shares that her dad used to hit her when she was growing up, and that whenever she tried to talk back or stand up for herself, she just ended up getting hit even more for it. At school, her friends would constantly ask her what had happened to her face and where all the marks and bruises had come from, but she absolutely hated the fact that she could never give them a real or honest answer to that question no matter how many times they brought it up. Then one day, when she could not bring herself to go straight home and was dragging her feet and walking back as slowly as she possibly could to put off getting there for as long as possible, she happened to notice a boxing gym sitting right there on the side of the road. She eventually made the decision to go ahead and join that gym, and even though it was not the truth, at least from that point on she finally had something she could tell her friends when they asked about the bruises on her face, since she could just say that they came from boxing and leave it at that. On top of all of that, boxing ended up becoming something much more meaningful to her than just a cover story, as it became her real and genuine way of learning how to defend herself and feel like she had some kind of control. But then things got complicated when one of her teachers at school happened to hear about what was really going on in her home life, and the next thing she knew the police had shown up at the gym to look into the whole situation. Worried sick that the coach was going to end up getting dragged into trouble because of her, she went ahead and told them the full truth about everything, and in doing so she felt a deep wave of shame wash over her knowing that her secret had been completely exposed, along with a heavy feeling of guilt over the fact that she had brought all of this trouble and attention down on the gym because of her personal situation. She then kept crying and worrying herself sick over the idea that she was going to get kicked out of the gym for causing all of this mess, but the director never got angry at her at all and instead sat her down and simply told her that the way she could pay him back for everything was by going out there and becoming a champion someday. Back in the present, the match between Seo-yoon and her opponent gets underway, and right from the very start Seo-yoon finds herself getting beaten up pretty badly since her opponent has a really significant height advantage that she is using to control the whole fight from the very beginning. The opponent keeps right on pressing forward and throwing attack after attack at Seo-yoon, who just stands there and absorbs all of those shots with a really calm and collected patience that is surprising to watch from the outside. The coach leans over to Kang-chan and tells him that Seo-yoon is simply not afraid of getting hit out there, and that even while she is taking all of those shots she never once closes her eyes no matter how hard things are getting for her in that moment. Eventually, Seo-yoon finds her opening and manages to land a really clean and sharp hit on her opponent, and right away it becomes clear to everyone watching that what makes her boxing stand out is her incredibly sharp and focused eyes combined with a really fast and precise punch speed that is hard to prepare for. Seo-yoon then keeps right on going and starts working her opponent over with all kinds of different moves one after another, landing enough clean and damaging shots that her opponent ends up taking way too much damage to keep going at the same level. Seo-yoon ends up coming out on top and winning the match, and the first thing she does afterward is turn to the coach and tell him that she had wanted to pay him back by doing exactly what he had told her to do all those years ago and becoming a champion. After Seo-yoon's match wrapped up, Songhwa's title defense also took place right after, and Songhwa went out there and pushed forward the entire time with his aggressive and relentless infighting style the way he always does. Kang-chan then went around and congratulated both of them on their victories, but Seo-yoon could not resist and started teasing him about something right away. Later on, Kang-chan sits with his thoughts and thinks about how Seo-yoon brings really sharp and focused eyes combined with a fast and precise punch speed to everything she does, while Songhwa on the other hand brings this completely destructive and unstoppable charging style that just runs right through people. He then looks over at Woong and thinks to himself that this guy is a genuinely heavy hitter who has the kind of power to put someone down on the canvas with just a single punch, and that his overall skill level makes everyone around him scratch their heads and wonder why he has not gone ahead and made his debut yet. It is right around that moment that Kang-chan realizes clearly and firmly that he needs to go out and find his very own style that belongs to nobody else but him. On top of all of that, Taejin has been showing off some truly jaw-dropping and impressive skills during his training sessions, and it turns out that he is widely considered to be the most complete and well-rounded southpaw fighter that Korea has ever produced. He is the kind of super rookie who came shooting into the boxing world completely out of nowhere like a comet that nobody saw coming. The following day, the much-anticipated match between Kangchan and Taejin finally gets underway, and Kangchan comes out right away and throws a straight punch at Taejin, who reads it coming and manages to dodge it cleanly without too much trouble. Taejin also tries to come back and throw a punch of his own, but it just barely grazes past Kangchan as he manages to escape it by the absolute smallest of margins. Taejin thinks to himself that he really does not need to bother going through any kind of feeling out process when he is up against a straightforward orthodox fighter like this. Taejin then switches his position so incredibly fast that it genuinely catches Kangchan completely off guard and leaves him standing there surprised by just how quickly that transition had happened. Taejin thinks to himself that Kangchan had managed to dodge a punch that had come at him from a blind spot earlier in the fight, which tells him that this kid has really solid and sharp natural instincts that he is going to have to account for going forward. After that exchange, Kangchan starts throwing out jabs one after another in order to create some distance between the two of them and buy himself a little bit of breathing room. Watching all of this play out, the coach thinks to himself that Taejin is a really experienced southpaw fighter, and that if this were just a regular straightforward fight between two right-handed fighters like usual, then things would be a whole lot simpler to read. He thinks through the fact that when a southpaw and a right-hander face each other, the lead hand and the rear hand end up on completely opposite sides compared to what either fighter is normally used to dealing with, and on top of that the distance to the rear hand ends up being a lot further away than usual, which creates a really different dynamic altogether. In addition to all of that, the lead hand and the lead foot end up being positioned really close to each other in this kind of matchup, which means that whichever fighter manages to take control of the lead hand and the lead foot positioning is going to have a massive advantage over the other one. The match then keeps going with Taejin coming in low with a duck to try and get underneath Kangchan's guard, but Kangchan tries to counter that move by throwing punches at him as he comes in. Eventually one of Taejin's punches gets through and catches Kangchan clean in the face, but rather than backing off, Kangchan makes the decision to push straight through it and keep pressing forward anyway. The coach then shouts out at him from the corner and tells him clearly that trying to fight in close range is not going to work against this particular opponent and that he needs to change things up. How long do you think it will take for Kangchan to find his own unique boxing style and step into the ring against Taejin? Comment boxing if you'd like a part 2 of this series. Make sure to like and subscribe the channel for more sports manhwa recaps.